Hello students, welcome to your discussion for science and tech and general knowledge in your Simulator-0 test. The way that the test is designed is to check not only your factual knowledge, but also how you apply yourself in the paper. We are going to look at not just the content in the test, but also what are the preparation strategies for different elements that you're tested upon in the prelims examination. Is going to help us behave in certain ways that set us up for success in the actual exam. In order for us to ensure those behaviors, some amount of preparation has to happen in the non-test conditions also. So treat these tests as a diagnostic tool to figure out what sort of refinement is necessary, what course correction is necessary for your prelims preparation. All right. So let's look at the first question. Nihon Hindankyo, a well-known Japanese organization, was recently seen in the news because, now, it is a current affairs-based question for sure, right? It is also a name matching, right? A context matching or key term matching type of pattern that is being asked. Now, in this question, it is dependent upon whether or not you recognize this name or not, right? So, recognition of that name is necessary. If you feel a difficulty in recognizing names which are not in languages that you're comfortable in, what are the strategies that you use, right? Number one is, I would want you to read this carefully. What happens is, whenever you're doing prelims preparation or UPSC preparation in general, our eye tends to skip over material that you're reading. So if you're reading a very large compilation of current affairs, if you're reading your notes again and again, and it's like your 10th revision of that same material, what tends to happen is that you don't read that material linearly, right? You see this, okay, I identify, and then your eye just jumps. If that is happening to you, then word matching is going to feel a little bit difficult. So what I need you to do is, I need you to read this carefully. I would want you to enunciate the name properly. Nihon Hindankyo, right? If you say it properly, then there is a higher chance that your mind will recognize this name in the future. All right. So if you read these things carefully, it will be easier for you to recognize that, yes, this is something that I have learned. This is something that I read in context of the Nobel Prizes. All right. So it was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its efforts in global nuclear disarmament. Now, the pattern of the question is such that the name that has been matched and the answer is A itself. That means that if you have a lot of conviction, you will read this, you will finish reading this, and the question will get finished very quickly. So if such questions are asked from content that will be well read, which will be covered by students, then this question is something which will make your paper easier. All right. So when we look at the difficulty level of a paper, we do tend to see how many of such questions have been asked. All right. Now, the method of attempting these questions. Preparation, I talked about that whenever there's a word that you don't recognize in your language of fluency, it is necessary that you enunciate, that you pronounce, that you read out the name properly. If that has happened, then the context matching will be easier. But in the exam, I do want you to read the rest of the question also. If you're reading the rest of the question also, there, mentally, the exercise that has to be is, you have to validate your thoughts. So it partnered with the World Bank to fund projects in small island developing states in the Pacific Ocean. Having read this, you have to train your mind to react that, okay, this is the sort of thing that the Global Climate Fund would be doing, right? Or maybe the Global Environment Facility would be doing, right? So this is something that GEF or GCF would do, right? So at least I have an answer that, okay, this is wrong, and I have a reason why. Right? That will help you have more conviction in the exam. Then it made significant breakthrough in developing a new structural system for tsunami resistant buildings. Now, why we are giving you this option is that you will read tsunami, you will read something Japanese, and you'll want to associate with it. But again, you have to ask yourself, have I read anything about it in my current affairs? Right? If you have not studied, answer in your mind that no, I have not studied anything like this. Right? And if this was so, you would have, see, if you have the sort of conviction that, okay, I have studied environment current affairs properly, right? If I have studied environment current affairs properly, if something like this would have happened, though I would know, right? So then even not studied will put you in a position that, okay, I'm not exposed to such an information, right? Then it pioneered the development of transplant tissues for treating diseases like Parkinson's and diabetes, right? Now, Parkinson's, degenerative disease, diabetes, one of the organ and one of the autoimmune, right? So two types of these diseases have been said. Now the question is, can I transplant tissues to treat these diseases, right? And is it that such an organization was well known because of this reason? Again, not studied, and again, this does not feel very logical to me, this portion. Had this option not been there, then I would have to worry about the things that I have not studied. But because this option is there, because it is something that you will have a reference to, this question can get finished faster. All right. So not only am I requiring you to know the answer, I also need you to train yourself to read the questions properly so that you're understanding what are the things that you need to study, right? Because see, in the actual exam, not only do you need to know the answer, you also need to have conviction, right? You have to sort of, placate yourself that, okay, this is the answer and I'm okay, right? So that aspect is necessary. What is left here is what Nobel Prizes it is required for you to study. I want you to study Nobel Prizes for 2024, 2023 and 2022. At least these, it is necessary that you're going to study. Now, this is from all of the countries, right? Whoever has gotten the prize, this you have to study. Apart from this, Nobel Prizes that Indians have received are also something which you have to study as part of static, no matter how old it may be, but you have to be aware of that, all right? So that is the topic of Nobel Prizes that must be covered here. In addition, other awards also you have to study, but that will be in context of a different question that I'll explain, all right? Now, from the science and tech section, your first question about this was about military exercises. So the question reads, which of the following statements about exercise Yuddh Abhyas 2024 are correct? Now, you have to see what are the things that are correct, and in terms of hygiene, in terms of the way that you should solve the paper is, you say correct, you tick or cross what is there in every statement, and then you match it, all right? If you are in a position that you don't know this content very well, then this pattern will help you, because 1, 2, 3 elimination is helpful here. Okay. So this was a joint military exercise between India and the USA. Now, factually, this is correct, but I will explain what preparation is required in order for us to attempt this question. Because if you don't know, then guesswork is going to go haywire in such questions. So, the exercise aims to enhance joint military capability of participating nations to undertake counter-terrorism operations. Now, this is factually correct, but whether or not you know is on basis of what you've prepared. The Indian Army was a part of this exercise. So, the answer to this question is D, 1, 2, 3. But what I want to discuss with you is, how do you prepare this, right? In order to prepare this, what mentally is required of you is that you need to know exercise Yuddh Abhyas, right? And in this, what are the facts that you need to remember? You need to know what is the type, bilateral, multilateral, whatever. So it is a bilateral exercise, right? Then you need to remember who are the participants. Apart from that, you have to know what are the forces. Now, participants means countries. Right? Forces means what force, military, navy, air force, what is the part who are participating? What is the objective of the exercise, right? And what sort of terrain the exercise is held, right? So these are the 5 things that you need to remember about any exercise that you're studying, right? Now, in order for you to generate this in your mind, you need to have a table somewhere. So, in terms of preparation, what is required is that you generate your notes for all of these different types of exercises. For that, you need to create a table in your notes in which I want you to write in your own hand. This is the country. This is the name of the exercise. Again, name and country can be interchanged, right? Then, what is the type? So maybe I'm writing lateral here, bilateral, trilateral, whatever that I'm writing here. What are the forces? What is the aim? And I also tend to write special feature. Is there a distinguishing feature in that exercise? So somewhere you need to have these notes. If you're an online type person, I'm happy that if you make like an Excel sheet about it. If you're a pen and paper person, make these notes somewhere. If you first write this note, that is the first level of memorizing, right? The way to learn it is to group them together. You can group them by regions. You can group them by types, that okay, these are bilateral exercises, these are multilateral exercises. You can group them by forces, and you can group them by aims. The point is, it's a multi-layered process as to how you mug up this information. So see, everybody is going to know that it is helpful, it is necessary that we learn these exercises. But different students are going to invest different amount of time and energy into learning this, right? What I'm telling you is that for you to learn purely factual information, it is helpful that you engage with that information in multiple layers, multiple levels. Step one is that I want you to create notes for your preparation. Write it down in your own hand. You will be able to collect this information from your current affairs sources. You will be able to collect this information from your test series sources. Why? Because number one is, step one is to check, okay, this question that has been asked, do I have this exercise written in my notes or not? Otherwise, this information is going to be scattered. You cannot know for sure whether you've studied it or not. So if you have a list, you can check against it, okay, this is something that I read about or no. Step one. Step two is, I said that I want you to group them in different ways, right? So grouping means analysis. So if you're grouping them by regions and countries, that okay, American countries, these are the exercises that we're doing. European countries, this is what we're doing. African countries, this is what we're doing. So at least by country, at least by region, the names are going to feel familiar. That is one way. When you're grouping them by type, bilateral exercises, multilateral exercises, at least they set up in one particular group. So in certain questions, you will be able to eliminate ki, okay, this one is for sure bilateral. Multilateral to nahi hoga is something that you can think, right? So for that grouping is necessary. Similarly, the more you engage with the groups, right? The more you engage with your table, the better your retention is going to be. Now, having learned that table in response to a question, this is what mentally my response looks like. I know that, okay, it's exercise Yuddh Abhyas. Now I have to know what type is it? What participants are these? What forces are these? Now, if you remember this structure, that okay, these are the prompts, these are the elements that I have to remember. Whether or not the question is checking you, whether or not the question is going to ask you about all these aspects, these are the things that you can ask yourself. If you ask yourself, sometimes it is easier for you to articulate, sometimes it's easier for you to pick whether or not it is correct or not, right? Because if I said it is India and USA only, then it is a different question, right? For that, it is necessary that you need to know that it is a bilateral exercise. That's why only 2 countries is okay. Do you get it? Different levels of difficulty of question can be handled only if you have some other supporting information. All right. So that's why try and mug up to the best of your ability. But the best of my ability looks like this. All right. So that's how you force yourself to mug up this information. The answer for that question, question number 21 was D, 1, 2, 3. Next question. Consider the following activities. Now, in way of covering your question paper in time, right? Time management within the exam is also something that students tend to struggle with, right? So if your issue is time management, ma'am, I cannot read the entire paper in the time that is allotted. That means that there is something which is wrong, which is to be corrected in the way that you're reading the question. In questions in which I have more than 3 options, and they've asked me to consider the following, right? I have to read this. I need to jump to what they're asking for, and then I will tick or cross in these statements that have been asked. Again, the way, the pattern, the process of reading this question has to be, I read this first, consider the following statements. Then I have to read, in how many of the above activities can nano bubble technology be used? I'm going to underline nano bubble technology. Then I have to read these statements and tick and cross. If you don't read this question like this, you will read all these things while you're reading, you'll think of random things. Then you'll see, oh, I have to worry about nano bubble. You will read this again, right? Then you will see these statements, and then a lot of time has been wasted, because if you do this in every question, then you are spending a lot of reading time. All right. So I have to read what am I looking for. Now, such questions get even more tricky if they ask me negative prompt here, if they're asking me not used. So sometimes in that processing, people tend to make silly mistakes. All right. I'll explain that in a context of a different question, but here consider the following activities. Where can nanobubble technology be used? Now, there can be two situations. Either you have studied nanobubble technology, or you would not have studied. Maybe you have only studied nanotechnology, right? So if you've only studied nanotechnology, what you know for sure is that it is going to be bubbles at the nano scale, right? After that, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. All right. So we go back to these statements, and now I have to read every statement and see whether or not nanobubble can be helpful here. So enhancing oxygen transfer efficiency in wastewater treatment. Number one, is there something that I studied about oxygen transfer in wastewater treatment? The answer is yes, because you read biological, this thing, dissolved oxygen, biologically available oxygen, all those things you study, right? So what is the oxygen availability, right? That is something that we study. Now, can a nanobubble help enhance oxygen transfer? A bubble of oxygen can help you have more oxygenation in the water. So this seems probable. So here I put a tick mark that, okay, it feels okay. Then, improving crop yield through increased nutrient absorption in plants. Now, is some sort of bubble helpful in the nutrient absorption in plants? Ask yourself, nutrient absorption happens where? At the roots, right? So if I want to have good absorption in the root, what do I need to have? More surface area, right? Roots are there to increase surface area. Now, sometimes you know that the soil has to be tilled, right? The soil, it should not be too compact. Some amount of air should be there. Porosity has to be maintained, right? So basically, you know that, okay, air around the roots is somewhat helpful, and it is not necessary that bubbles have to be in air only. Bubbles can be water also. Bubble can be nutrient also, right? So it can be used in something to do with nutrient absorption. This feels okay-ish to me, so I'll make a different sign, right? That it feels okay, but I'm not sure. Assisting earthquake prediction by detecting movement of seismic waves. This I know for sure. Ki when it has to do with earthquake, bubbles are not doing anything. So the way to check is that if nanobubble technology is going to be helpful, how is it going to help me do something in earthquake detection, right? So this does not seem likely. So this I am crossing. That earthquakes have to happen in solid, in the soil, in the mantle, in the crust, right? In the harder surfaces. If there are bubbles associated, that is going to act as a deterrent. It's going to act as a problem for me to see what seismic waves are generated. So 3 is still not happening. When 3 is not happening, that means all 5 is not going to be my answer. Yes. Then for enhancing drug delivery in targeted medical treatment. Now this feels okay to me, that if I have to send a particular medical treatment in some area, I can create a small nanobubble that can go and hit at the targeted site, right? So that I could imagine okay. Then data encryption in cybersecurity. If I'm creating a small bubble, how will that work in cybersecurity? Cybersecurity has to do with software, right? Software has to do with coding. Software has to do with programming, right? Any type of nanobubble technology which is physical in nature is going to have a hardware orientation. So if they were talking about chip manufacture, if they were talking about cooling a supercomputer, there I could think of these things. But in software, I am sure it cannot happen. So only 4 is also eliminated here, right? Now, I have to select my answer between only 2 and only 3. Oxygen transfer I have selected. Targeted medical treatment I have selected. Only crop yield I have to make a guess. I am selecting that, and that will bring my answer to only 3. All right. But what did we have to learn from this question? That there is a pattern in which reading the question is helpful. Do not just tick the answer all 5. Science and tech is usually all of the above. That is a bad idea. Every time you're trying to think of what are the ways in which a particular technology can be used, it is necessary that you ask yourself how. What is the application? Try and imagine that process. If you engage with the question, you will be able to at least come closer to the answer. All right. So that is the way that such questions have to be approached. Now, next question was 88. This technology. Now, you see this pattern. Again, a paragraph has been written. What is the way to attempt this question? You start reading AI based technology. Yahan achanak se I want you to stop that. Okay. Then the paragraph is there. Jump to what has been asked. Which of the following emerging technologies is best described in the above passage? I want you to read the elements first. What are the options available? And here, the processing that has to happen is, ask yourself, have you read this particular technology before or not? So digital twin. Now, I don't know if you've read this or not, but it is possible for you to infer the meaning. Digital twin means my twin in the digital world, right? Same as me. That is something that you can think of. Then augmented reality, yes, I've studied that. On top of my reality, some overlay of the digital world can be put. Deepfake also, you've learned that, okay, it is a video that is created by, AI or some other technology, but it is a fake video which looks very real, deepfake. Virtual human modeling, something like digital twin, but only for human beings. That virtually the human being, the entire human being or part of human being is going to be, a model is going to be created, right? So first you see how many of these words do you recognize or not. Now, having had these impressions in your mind, having read this, now you have to read this and see how many, identifying features you can see. Right? So this reads, this AI-based technology. So AI-based, all four feel AI-based. Augmented reality, perhaps less AI-based. Okay. Is capable of altering videos, images and audio to create highly realistic but artificial representations of real people. So if it is artificial representation, augmented reality is not, because it is not about altering video. Right? Digital twin cannot be, because again it is artificial representation, right? And virtual human modeling also not artificial, right? Virtual human modeling is to be accurate to the actual sample. So that's why I'm sticking to deepfake right now. But it is necessary that you read the rest of the paragraph also. It utilizes machine learning models, particularly generative adversarial networks, to synthesize content that can be used for entertainment, misinformation and identity fraud. Now, identity fraud, again gives me a link to what deepfake is, right? So it will give you more conviction about what you have to write. But otherwise, it is helpful that you know what you're looking for. And then while you're looking for validation, you can tick or cross. Again, not a very difficult question, but it is something that will require you to apply yourself. Now, from test series, you also get elements to study. If you've not been exposed to what GANs are, this is your cue to pick up what they mean and what they don't mean. If any one of these is something that you were not aware of, test series is going to help you broaden your exposure to such elements. All right. Next question was in the context of space technology. The companies AST, Space Mobile, Link Global and SpaceX's Starlink, frequently mentioned in the news, are primarily what? Now, usually what happens is, in the list of the three aspects, one of those companies you'll be able to recognize for sure. So Starlink, famously, I don't know if you were aware of it at that time, during the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia war, the Ukrainians were saying that our internet has been blocked. So Musk gave the tweet that, okay, Starlink is active, you get the internet now. So because of which Ukraine was able to have such a high footprint in the digital world. Now, what this speaks to is that even though you can study current affairs from a lot of compilations, but this is a small thing, very small thing, that there was a tweet by Musk. This links to your exposure to current affairs. Meaning, if you've been reading the newspapers, if you watch the news, if you have exposure to current affairs, if you have exposure to the news, there are certain things that you will be aware of without studying, right? There, I want you to have trust in your intuition. So while you're doing test series, one of the things that you have to refine is that you'll often get this feeling that, oh, I read something about this. You will not remember where you studied it. You don't remember what source it was, but sometimes you'll get that intuition. While you're doing the test, I would want you to mark questions that you're doing by intuition. That I did this question by intuition and this is what it felt like. Awareness of your feeling, this intuitive feeling, is helpful. Why? Because I want you to separate this feeling of you knowing that you read something for sure and the other feeling of something feeling familiar. Familiarity versus knowing something that you read before earlier are two different feelings. It is a very intuitive thing. It's a very subjective thing. But if you train yourself to identify, it does start working. So in the context of test series, identifying your intuition is also helpful so that at least you're able to keep a count of how many questions you're solving through intuition. All right. So what is it about? It is a satellite-based internet service provider. Yes, and again, if Ukraine wanted the internet and Stalin gave it that, so this is the only option that's going to match. Then question 92. With reference to space technology, consider the following statements about rocket engine fuels. In this particular pattern of question, please remember to check 2-3 things. The first thing to check is that the original pattern was 2 statements and assertion reasoning. Most of you by exposure will feel that I know these options already, what the matrix is. But in last year's paper, we have seen that this pattern has been changed to include some questions with statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3, and then ABCD is going to change. So first thing I want you to do is, I want you to check what pattern they have asked. Even though you would have seen this question, one of the easiest way for me to mess up your paper as a paper setter, for me to change a question as an examiner, is simply to change something here. Because you will not read this carefully. You will think that I know these options and you will not read it carefully. You will benchmark upon the basics that you have already practiced. But in terms of a serious paper giver, I want you to read the entire question from here to here. Verify that the pattern you think it is the one that has been asked, right? Now, whenever this pattern is asked in the original way, the way to check it is, you have to check statement 1, you have to check statement 2, and you have to check if it is the right reason, right? So in my paper, if what I'm doing is correct, if I'm checking this paper, I have to see a tick mark here, and then I make this arrow that this is the reason and I check this only then this is going to be the correct answer. If this reason is wrong, the cross is here and my answer changes, right? If this is wrong, then again my answer changes. Again, the way that you engage and calculate in the paper is something that helps you process the paper well. It helps you protect yourself from making silly mistakes. All right. Now let's look at the question. Liquid fuel is preferred over solid fuels in the space rocket engines. Now, here you have to know whether or not this is true. You may know, you may not know, right? But you do know that the newer space rockets, the newer designs are preferring liquid. This though you know for sure. That means that it is an upgrade. This you would know for sure, right? So on basis of that, you can reassert the statement that, okay, it feels okay because we are progressing towards that design. All right. Then liquid fuel requires less storage space and is cheaper than solid fuel. Now, think of it this way. Is it going to be cheaper than solid fuel? Doesn't seem likely, because solid fuel you can just put, but liquid fuel is requires those compressed cylinders and the pumps and the pipes and all those things. At least technology wise, it is more sophisticated than solid fuel. Then less storage space or more storage space, this you may not know, right? But the truth is that because solid fuel has the oxidizer and the fuel together, it requires less space, but liquid fuel you have to carry the oxygen also. That's why it requires more space. Now, this means that my answer becomes 1. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect, because liquid fuel requires more storage space and is more expensive than solid fuel, but it is used as an upgrade. For what reason? It is used as an upgrade because it has better regulation, it has better control when you're doing that, right? And it has greater efficiency, right? So my answer for question 92 is C. But what we had to learn is how to handle such patterns. How do you reassert some parts of the question, right? How to think. Then question 93, consider the following submarines. Which of the following are classified as nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines in India. Again, a tabular format of mugging up this information is going to help you answer this question. See, the answer is it's Arihant and Arighad. Vikrant and Vakshir are not ballistic missile submarines. Vikrant is an aircraft carrier and Vakshir is a diesel submarine. Anyway, but the point is that what I want you to identify is that if you are not memorizing for prelims, reasons that you're not memorizing for prelims could be that you don't like this pattern, you want to study and you don't like mugging up things. Right? Students will say that, ma'am, I'm very bad at learning. I can only understand through concepts, so I'm not going to do this. That is one problem. Some students are going to postpone learning these elements, that, okay, I will learn it close to the exam, right? Both of those are bad strategies. The good strategy is, I want you to start memorizing right now, so that from the entire portion, some things you know for sure. At the very least, your notes are generated. I told you in that question about the exercises, the notes have to be generated so that there is something that you're trying to learn. At least you know that, yes, it is useful. Plus, I want you to have visualization. If you're not memorizing this data, in every mock test, you will lose out on 1 or 2 questions. Now, if you're the sort of student who falls behind the cutoff by 1 or 2 questions only, that means that it is this information that you refuse to memorize which is ruining your attempt. So that seriousness is required. Memorization of the content is necessary and it has to begin now, because the volume of information that you have to memorize cannot happen in 2 weeks before the exam. You have to start now. You have to see what you know for sure. And because of that, while you're doing different test series, you will get tested in the way that you have to sort of, retain and, redact that information, right? Not only do you have to learn, but you also have to use this information to answer questions. So for you to see how to use the things that you have memorized, it is necessary that you memorize, that you go to test, and then you see how well you are able to retain it or not. Okay. So the answer here is only 2, but again, based on rote memorization. Then question 94. Consider the following medical applications. Again, in how many of the above given applications can MRI be effectively used? What you have to know is, what is the process of magnetic resonance imaging? What we do is that the MRI machine has a very large electromagnet, and the body part that has to be imaged is put inside that electromagnet, and the variation in the electromagnetic field in your body is seen, right? So your soft tissue of the body, in which there will be neurons and nerves, right? They will have electrical impulses for your nerves to communicate, and those sort of fields that are generated are the ones which are measured by the device. So, measuring the metabolic rate of tumor cells. So, metabolism happens because of the these cells using energy and talking to the neurons. So, that can be measured through the MRI. Then identification of nerve compression. Again, nerves, I told you can see. Detection of ligament tears in the muscles. If the ligament has been torn, the connections will not happen there. So it will be a dark area. So yes, they can also be visualized. So all 3 is the answer. But what helps me solve this question is knowing the concept of what the MRI is, right? So all these imaging techniques is something that you do have to prepare. Anything to do with general medicine, anything that you can go and ask for as a test, right? Be it a liver function test, be it a blood test, how that happens, what are the processes, this is something that you have to know in general science and awareness. Then question 95. With reference to glycemic index of food, which of the following statements is incorrect? Now, glycemic index, because it is the sort of topic which is in a lot of conversation on diet channels and weight loss discussions, it is necessary that you know it in this exam year, because this is the year in which Ozempic, the entire issue has come up. So the entire thing of weight loss and different, especially insulin resistance related topics, are well within the syllabus. So, with reference to glycemic index, it measures the quality of carbohydrates in food. That is correct. Now, whenever you've been asked that, you have to look for incorrect. My method of doing it is, I will only do right or wrong, which is the factual thing here. And from here, I will pick the one which is incorrect, and that will become my answer. If you play with that, at least for me, it becomes confusing, because then what you will do, you will think that, okay, this statement is right, but in the context of what is required is wrong. And then suddenly by here, you will start to get confused. So it's better, I know this is true and that's okay. Foods with high GI are digested faster than foods with a low GI. Yes. Consuming high GI foods increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, correct. Dairy products are the highest GI among all food groups. No. So I know I'm looking for incorrect, and I know this is my answer. That is the way to do the question. Now for the topic of glycemic index. What is asked for us to do is that you eat food with low glycemic index, meaning that it should be food that is going to get digested slower. So when you are asked to eat, say, brown rice or brown bread, as opposed to white rice, white bread, or refined carbohydrates, what you're trying to do is that I don't want my glucose spike to be a lot. It's not as if I want to eat food right now, right, get a lot of energy in a short amount of time, and then my energy levels will crash and then I eat more, right? So that's why something which has a very high glycemic index is something which will give you an insulin spike, some blood sugar spike, right? As opposed to something with low GI, more complex foods which are digested slower. So slowly the energy is released. All right. Now, what are the foods which have highest glycemic index? Highest glycemic index is going to be for this thing, very refined food, right? Food which is purely starch, purely sugar, which is going to be directly digested by the body, right? The dairy products which have significant amount of fat do have lower glycemic indexes because they digest slowly. All right. So my answer here is D. My next question was, consider the following statements about small modular reactors. Again, this is something that you have to study from concept point of view, right? So they're defined as reactors which have a power generation capacity up to 100 megawatt electrical. No, this is 1000. This is 300. So one is wrong. This gets eliminated. Always remember that elimination, the process is not going to change. If you know this fact for sure that it's wrong, the two other options which have one have to be eliminated immediately. Then India's Union Budget of 25-26 has launched a nuclear energy mission which is a focus on research and development of small modular reactor. Yes, I do two ticks where there is a fact that I'm sure of completely. Not only that I know that this is true, I know this for sure. They require more frequent refueling than conventional nuclear reactors. This is the opposite, right? They can last for a very long time, and that's why they are selected to be deployed in regions which are cut off or remote. All right. So my answer becomes only 2. Things from the budget you must be aware of very clearly by now, that elements that are in the budget, you do need to study them to the best of your capacity, right? The budget is a very core source. Budget and the survey are two of the most important sources for your prelims and again mains exam. Next question, post-quantum cryptography is most appropriately discussed in the context of. Now, some of you will be aware, but I have to do this question in assuming that you don't know anything about this. So post-quantum matlab after quantum technology, what sort of cryptography we're going to have. Now, quantum computing, you know that instead of the binary system of regular computing, quantum is going to work on the base of 4 or even more, right? It has different other principles of superposition, right, and entanglement, and because of which the quantum computer will be able to solve our regular computer, digital computer problems very quickly. So the problem was that anyone who develops the quantum computer first will be able to break all cryptography in the world, right? That is the idea. When we are saying post-quantum, that means cryptography that is secure in the quantum computer field also, right? The locks, codes that are generated that are difficult even for the quantum computer to solve. That is what they're talking about here. So enhancing the speed of data transmission in quantum networks. No, cryptography is not to do with data speed. Securing data against potential future attacks from quantum computers. Okay, but let's read the other options. Improving efficiency of quantum technology for cryptocurrency transactions. No. Developing new quantum methods for data compression and storage. No. So D to we know for sure, A we know for sure is wrong. Some people will get stuck on C also, that it has to do with cryptocurrency transactions, right? Whereas this is securing data against potential future attack. What I want you to check is cryptography is for data protection, not just cryptocurrency, which means that option B is more broad in this thing, in its meaning as compared to option C, which is why we are going to select option B, because it links more to the technology. And otherwise also in terms of trends, UPSC tends to tends to lean towards the broader option. All right, so that's my answer, option B. Question 98, which of the following statements is correct with reference to in vitro gametogenesis? Now, whether or not you're aware of this technology, again, what we have to do for biotech is, I want you to break this word down. In vitro means in test tube, right? We study in vivo and in vitro. In vivo means living, in vitro means outside the body. So in test tube, this we know. Then gametogenesis. So it is genesis of the gametes. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to generate the gametes, which are the sex cells. In what? In a test tube. This is from the word only we are able to pick up the meaning. While you're studying biotechnology and biology, I want you to learn the meaning of the terms by breaking the word down wherever possible. That will help you identify what the different terms are meaning. Now, it is a process of generating functional eggs or sperm in a laboratory setting through induced pluripotent stem cells of individuals. So at least functional egg and sperm in laboratory setting I can see from the name, right? The ART Act limits the age of people seeking to use IVG in India. Sure, but unlike in vitro fertilization, IVG does not require any kind of biological contribution. That cannot happen. It increases the risk of genetic disorders in offspring by including harmful genetic traits. No, that cannot happen, right? So the only thing that we have to get stuck on is it that ART Act 2021 limits the age for using IVG. No, it is IVF that the act is limiting, right? So who is using IVF technology is something which has been limited by the act and not IVG. But again, that is incidental. The option that matches most is option A, because this is the meaning of the technology, and that is something that you can pick out from the name. So what we've learned is that in context of the subjects that we're doing, in terms of biology, because you are required to learn a lot of terms and terminology, right? Etymology is going to be your friend. Try to break the words down, so that will help you remember these aspects. All right, I'll see you again in the future tests. Please try and use these tests and test series to see where you stand in your preparation. Try not to let it affect your motivation and morale, because please remember, there is still time left for your exam. You can study everything that is required, but it is necessary that you identify where the gaps are. What are the things that you have to do correctly? If you seek help from our mentors and teachers, that can also be something which will help you address your gaps, right? So don't get too obsessed about worrying about your problems. We have to obsess about solving our problems. All right, that's all from me today. Thank you. See you soon.
So hello everyone. Now we are going to discuss the questions of geography and environment. Let's start with the first question. The question is, it is about the oceans. The question is saying, with reference to horizontal distribution of the temperature in oceans, consider these two statements. The statement 1 says, in higher latitudes, open seas have relatively cooler temperature. है ना? Open seas. Now, to understand this question, I'm giving you this example. For example, there are two ports. The one port is bigger, the second port is smaller, right? If I put this two ports in case of, just consider this is nothing but open sea, है ना? The bigger one is open sea. This is nothing but the enclosed sea, which is surrounded by the land. Now, if the this type of oceans are found near the tropics where the sunlight is very high. आप गेट बंद कर देंगे? गेट आवाज बाहर है. Sorry. And yes, and वापस से करूँ, ठीक है। पानी भी नहीं है, ठीक है। हाँ, इसमें घुटन हो रही है कमरे में, बाहर बच्चे बैठे हैं तो आवाज बाहर जाएगी। ठीक। ठीक है। So hello everyone, we are going to discuss the questions from geography and environment in this discussion. So let's start with the question directly. The first question is from oceanography, and here the question is about the horizontal distribution of the temperature. Now, two statements are given. One is saying in higher latitudes, open seas have relatively cooler temperature. Okay. Now, to understand this concept, first see here. Let's say I'm taking the two ports. One is A, which is bigger. The second is B port, which is smaller. You can consider this port as open, and here this is nothing but enclosed sea. Now, if you are aware about the insolation and the temperature, where the insolation will be maximum around this, let's say tropics, this is the highest, let's say insolation zone. Now, if in this zone, just consider I am putting these two ports, what will happen where the temperature will increase quickly? Of course, if I will put these two bodies, that is water bodies, the smaller one will gain the temperature quickly. So the enclosed water bodies in the lower tropics will show you more temperature compared to the open water bodies. Now, if we consider the upper latitudes, somewhat here, in this upper latitudes, what happens is there is less of insolation now. The temperature will be slightly lesser compared to this area. Now, again, we have the two water body. One is open, one is enclosed. One is bigger, the second is smaller. If I ask you one simple thing, if I put these two water bodies here, let's say A and B, now tell me where more temperature can be found, or just consider where the water will freeze quickly. Answer would be B. Why? Because it is smaller and it will show you the quick change compared to the bigger water body, that is open sea. So in that way, you can consider the bigger bodies or the open water bodies will have more temperature in upper latitudes, right? So what the statement is saying, in higher latitudes, open seas are relatively cooler. Therefore, you can reject this statement outrightly. This is very important concept. So this is not true. The statement 1 is incorrect. What the second statement is saying, the temperature of surface water decreases from the equator towards the pole. Yes, in general, what happens is because insolation decreases from equator to pole, similar way, in general, what happens is the ocean surface temperature will also decrease from equator to the poles. Very simple it is. However, you have to consider this is here in the subtropics, the maximum temperatures will be recorded. Why? Because of this is the reason where there is sinking winds are found, number one. Second, there is no rainfall. Mostly this is the dry belt. And because of these two regions, the water temperature will also increase in this area. But in general, from equator to pole, temperature will decrease because insolation will decrease. So answer should be, I think statement 1 is incorrect. So what is the, yes. So answer should be D. Answer is D. Now, if we go to the second question, the second question is about albedo. What is albedo? Albedo is the reflection capacity. Means if a surface reflects back insolation, how much of the insolation is reflected back? That is considered as the capacity of reflection or albedo. Now, about albedo, this is nothing but reflection capacity of any surface, right? Now, if you go by this reflection capacity, you may be familiar that if the brighter would be the object, whiter if it is the object, it will radiate and reflect more and more sun energy or insolation back into the atmosphere and space. It means if I ask you, let's say there is snow which is fresh, okay, very bright in color, so it will have the highest albedo. Yes. Then if I say old snow, second we can say in position. Then if I ask you desert, desert is also having, let's say, high albedo. Then after that, let's say the grasslands, right? And the finally would be the forest. So now you can see this is the order. The highest albedo is in the whiter object, the snow. Okay. Now, if we read the statement, the first statement says the albedo of desert is higher than the tropical evergreen forest. It is correct. You can see here the deserts will have the more albedo compared to the forest. Yes, it is true. Then what is the second statement? The high albedo, this is true. The high albedo of a surface is due to its ability to absorb. It's not about ability to absorb. It is reflection capacity, not the absorption capacity. So second is incorrect. What should be the answer? One is correct, second is incorrect. So the answer is one is correct, but the second statement, yeah, that is about 75% of world's active volcanoes are concentrated in Pacific Ring of Fire. That is true. Why its name is Pacific Ring of Fire? Because most of the time you will see there are volcanic eruptions continuously which are going on. If you see this diagram, let's say this is the North America. Here if I make, let's say here it is the North America, right? Then we have the South America. What you will see here, you will see Mountain Hood, Mountain Shasta, Mountain Rainier in US. Hai na? Here you will see Mountain Cotopaxi exactly on equator. Here you will see Mountain, let's say, Aconcagua, the highest one, right? There are so many this type of mountains which are found in this entire belt. Let's say this Philippine is known for Mountain Mayon. Then Japan is famous for volcanic eruption. So what you can observe here, you will observe this in this entire area, we have so much of the volcanic eruption activities. Why this eruption is going on? Because in this entire area, the subduction of especially one oceanic plate, which is nothing but your Pacific plate, is going on. The Pacific plate is subducting under the continental plates or the other plates because it is the Pacific which is heaviest, denser. Why it is heaviest and denser? Because it is entirely oceanic in nature. Most of the other plates are the example of mixture. There you will have the both continental part as well as oceanic part. But in case of Pacific, it is entirely Pacific or oceanic it is. And therefore, it is the densest and the heaviest plate out of other all plates. So wherever it will interact with the other plates, it is the Pacific which will go down under the another. Okay, so because of this subduction, what happens is this is nothing but convergence is going on. Convergence, you may be familiar with this convergence. What is convergence? When the two plates come closer to each other, this convergence can be of three types. One is OC, the most common type. Then it is, let's say, CC. OC is nothing but you will find more commonly around this Pacific Ring of Fire. Most of the areas you will have the OC. Pacific is going down under the continental North American plate, right? CC is the example of Himalayas rise. Most of the fold mountains that you see, alpine fold mountains, they are of CC origin. Then one more, that is OO. OO will create the islands, the volcanic island arcs in the oceans. For example, Japan, Caribbean, Indonesian islands, they all are the example of origin of O and O. Okay, so what the question is saying? The question is asking, see here, 75% of world's active volcanoes are concentrated in Ring of Fire. That is true. The Pacific Ring of Fire is predominantly characterized by convergent plate boundary. This is also true. Convergence is going on. Both of them are true. So what is the answer? Both are true. And the second is correct explanation of the first one. Done. Next is, consider the following. And now the question is asking what of them are the example of diastrophism. Now, what is diastrophism? Before that, I am just telling you the earth movement. The earth movement is caused by two reasons. One is when the forces are coming from within the earth, they are known as endogenetic forces. And when they are operating outside from the earth, then they are known as exogenetic or exogenic forces. In the endogenetic forces, we have, let's say, diastrophic and catastrophic forces. Catastrophic forces. Now, what is diastrophic? These are slow forces which are known for building of continents and mountains. Okay, so these are nothing but the continent building forces or the mountain building forces. They can also be classified in, let's say, number one, the folding, we can say epirogenic and orogenic. Epirogenic means when they are making continents. Orogenic means when they are making mountains. Epirogenic can again be classified into two ways. Now, before going into this one, it is inside the diastrophism we are entering. Diastrophic, you have to remember, it is the slow operating forces known for the continent or the mountain building, and they are coming from within the earth, means endogenetic forces they are. Now here you can classify, see here, the submergence, emergent forces, submergent forces. Here you can have the folding and faulting. Okay, so folding will create fold mountain, for example, Himalaya. Faulting will create the block mountain, for example, Satpura, Vindhya, Vosges, Black Forest, Salt Range of Pakistan. They all are the example of the block mountains, right? So these type of forces will be classified under diastrophic forces. Here you can have catastrophic, means very quick they are in nature. Second, mostly they will be associated with destruction. For example, tsunami. For example, earthquake also. But see here, in, let's say, earthquake, we can also say earthquake can be also the part of diastrophic movement. For example, if there is folding is going on and the Himalayas are being, let's say, built up, in that case, if the earthquakes are occurring, then they will be considered as the part of diastrophic forces. However, more technically, they are the part of catastrophic forces. Okay? Because they will occur suddenly, and most of the times they will be associated with what? Destruction. However, if the earthquakes are associated with the folding, faulting, mountain building, such type of earthquakes can become the part of diastrophism. Now consider this one, and one more thing, this side. Now in this side we have, let's say, these are also known as denudational forces. Denudational means the forces which are lowering down the surfaces. Lowering down means, for example, here the examples would be, let's say, weathering, erosion, and mass movement. For example, in the mass movement, you have the landslide, landfall, all these things. So they come under this exogenic forces. Now they are not building something, they are rather reducing something. They are making the plane features. Okay? For example, if there is a mountain over a period of time due to weathering, erosion, mass movement, what can happen? It can be, let's say, eroded in such a magnificent, let's say, amount. For example, Aravallis, once they were known for highest fold mountains, but nowadays they are only existing as a relic fold mountain. Yes or no? Yes. So these are destructive forces, right? Now, if you consider by this, just see here, formation of Rift Valley. What they are asking, diastrophism. So Rift Valley means they are created with the fault. Can I say this is the example of diastrophism process? Rift Valley creation, block mountain creation, this is the part of the faulting, and this is also the part of diastrophism. Weathering, answer is no, because weathering is in the exogenetic side and not in diastrophic process. So weathering of rock, no. Erosion, of course, no. Occurrence of landslide. Now see here, landslide is mass movement. Okay? So because of this, it is classified under the mass movement. So mass movement is not the part of diastrophism, rather it is the part of the other side. Therefore, this is also not the answer. So how many statement I think it is asking correct they are? Hai? So the one statement is the correct. The one is formation of rift valleys. So only one statement is true. Next question is, yes, it is about distribution of atmospheric pressure across hemisphere. Consider the following statement. In the northern hemisphere, pressure belt shift northward during summer and southward during winter. That is true. Now, for example, you may have seen this, you can understand with the example of, let's say, India's monsoon. You may have seen, let's say, this is somewhat equator, geographical equator. So what happens in the June, you may be familiar with this phenomena. This 𝐼𝐴, that is the monsoonal trough, will shift over the plains of India. And therefore, what happens is monsoon, that is nothing but modified trade winds, are attracted to India. This is somewhat I am telling you about June and July, right? In June, it will be exactly over this plains of India. Now, what will happen after June, when the summer solstice is gone, the sun will go, means apparently it will go in the southern hemisphere. So therefore, what will happen? Because sun was here somewhat, the 𝐼𝐴 shifted here. Now the sun is moving towards the another hemisphere. This is apparent movement of the sun. It seems like sun is moving, but it is not the sun which is moving. It is the earth which is revolving around the sun. And hence I am using the term apparent movement of the sun. Now, when the sun is going into the southern hemisphere, what happens is this 𝐼𝐴 will also shift in the southernward. So this is true. In the northern hemisphere, the pressure belt will shift during the northern summer. In which side? In the northward side, and southward side in the winter. That is true. What is the second statement? That says in the southern hemisphere, high pressure system develop over landmass in January. Now, when we take, let's say, southern hemisphere, just consider January is their summer month. It is not winters for them. It is winters for us. So if it is the summer in your land, for example, you can consider the example of India. Let's say if it was the summer, June here, over India's landmass, what type of pressure we do have? We had low pressure. So in summers, because of increasing temperature on the land, low pressure systems will be built up. What he is saying in this statement, that in the summer of southern hemisphere, high pressure system will develop over the landmass. It is incorrect. In summers, low pressure systems will build up. So what you have to be very careful with, just consider this is southern hemisphere summer. Okay? Don't be confused with this January month. Otherwise, what you will understand, this January is winter, and winter means high anticyclone or high pressure systems can be there over the land. It is incorrect. So second statement is not true. In both hemisphere, the equatorial region is characterized by doldrum. Yes. So what is doldrum? I am erasing this one. Now see here. What is doldrum? Doldrum is nothing but the calm zone in between the trade winds, right? So for example, if this is the equator, what happens is the trade winds will come from subtropical high pressure belt from both the side. Now what happens is when the winds are coming, why the winds are coming? Because equator is characterized by high temperature throughout the year. Because of that, the low pressure conditions will be built up here. When the winds are traveling towards this low pressure, the moment they reach towards the center, means they are not reaching exactly in the center, towards the center when they were reaching, they have gained enough temperature and therefore they have warmed up. Because of this warming, they became lighter and hence they are rising. So they could not reach into the center. Why? Because center is too hot for this winds to reach inside. So what happens is before reaching to the center, they converged, and this region is therefore characterized with absence of this type of vertical winds. This region is practically known as doldrum or the calm zone. Okay, so what the statement is saying? In both the hemisphere, equatorial region is characterized by doldrum. Yes. A persistent low pressure belt with calm winds. Yes. And intense convection. You can see this is the convectional process. Yes. So third is true. So how many statements are true? Second is not true. So 1 and 3 are the correct answer. You can see here 1 and 3 are the correct answers, right? Next is, which of the following countries are which of the following country is currently the largest producer, consumer and importer of the pulses of world? Yes, it is India. Recently FAO published one, let's say, study or the data in which they said that India is producing around 25% of world's pulses. However, we need 27% of the pulses, so we are importing, है ना? So we are the highest in terms of production. Also, we are the highest in terms of consumption. So answer is India. Next is which of the following are the tributaries of Yamuna? Which tributaries they are asking? They are asking right bank tributaries. So if you will see the Yamuna here, I think the answer is yes. This is D. So Chambal, Sindh, Betwa, and Ken. Exactly, this is the sequence. Betwa and Ken. These are the right bank. You will consider this is the direction of the river Yamuna. So Ramunas, these are the right bank rivers of Yamuna. Simple it is. Chambal, Sindh, Betwa, and Ken. Next is laterite soil are suitable for growing plantation crop. It is true. Why? What is laterite soil? First understand. Laterite is the soil which is known for, let's say, the regions where intense rainfalls are seen. Let's say equatorial regions, or in fact you can consider, let's say, this area of Western Ghat, the western part of Western Ghat. Because of high rainfall here, what happens is there is intense leaching of the soil is caused. And what happens in this, let's say, with very high rainfall, all the minerals which are soluble in the water, they will be dissolved with the runoff of the water. Now the soil will not have much of the nutrients because they all were soluble and therefore they were dissolved. Hence the soil will be left with only some aluminium and ferrous content. Because of the ferrous, what happens is it will have also reddish color. This type of soil with this, let's say, aluminium and ferrous, this is known as laterite soil. Often you will see in the equatorial region also the same type of soil is found. Why? Because of the heavy rainfall. Also, the other thing that you will see in the equatorial region, you will not find this soil is not having much of the nutrient except aluminium and ferrous. The second thing is because of, let's say, high temperature and moisture in such regions of equator, often humus content is also not found in the soil. Why? Because of microbacterial activity is very, very faster there. Because of this microbes, decomposition rate is faster. Why the decomposition is faster? Because of too high temperature and too high rainfall. So what happens is, because of all these factors, often these soils, most of the time, they do not have much nutrients except aluminium and ferrous. These soils are known as laterite soil. Laterite soil, practically this word means brick soil. You can use this soil in brick making. Why? Because there are no much nutrients left in this soil. So this soil, however, can be used for plantation if you will add some fertilizers in this soil. Okay. So if the fertilizers are added, this soil will be best suitable for the plantation crop. For example, you can see here what Goa is famous for cashew plantation. What Karnataka is famous for coffee plantation. What this Kerala is famous for, rubber plantation, tea plantation, coffee plantation. So plantation, why? Because of laterite soil. And one more thing that you have to remember, coffee crop will be promoted, will be, let's say, benefited if there is iron content in the soil. So you can see here in the laterite, because of the iron is present, hence it is suitable for the coffee cultivation. So what is this statement? See there, laterite soil are suitable for growing the coffee crop. Yes, it is true. The next is the laterite soil are rich in organic matter. I already told you it is incorrect. Okay, it is not rich in organic matter. So what is the option we are left with? The option is 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. Next is consider the following countries: Djibouti, Ethiopia, Yemen, South Sudan, and Eritrea. How many of the countries are sharing the border with the Red Sea? If you see South Sudan, it is far away located. This cannot be the answer. Then Yemen, yes, it shares. Eritrea, yes, it shares. Ethiopia, no. Instead of Ethiopia, it is Egypt. Okay, so what are the, let's say this is the Red Sea. Red Sea. You will see here Djibouti is there, then Eritrea is there, then Sudan is there, but not South Sudan. Then Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, then Yemen also. So you can eliminate from here. Ethiopia, no. Then South Sudan, no. how many we are left with? 3 options are there. Okay, so only 3 are the correct. Then next question is, this is again with some, let's say, mapping practice, or we can say it is also related more or less with the map. Gandhi Sagar, it is on Chambal but not in Rajasthan, it is in MP, so this is incorrect. Sri-Sailam was also in news. You may be familiar if you are going through this PYQs. Sri-Sailam Tiger Reserve, it was asked in 2023 because of its largest core area. It was located in Andhra Pradesh. So Sri-Sailam, it is on Krishna but not in Tamil Nadu. It is in Andhra Pradesh. So it is incorrect. Nathpa Jakri, it is on Satluj, yes, and it is in Himachal Pradesh. Fine. Kopili, it is not on Barak River. It is the Kopili, which is the tributary of Brahmaputra, and this is the tributary which is in the Assam. So it's not Manipur. It is incorrect. So only we are having one correct option, that is Nathpa Jakri. 3 is the correct. So only one statement is true. With reference to global distribution of wind system, consider the following. The local winds, they are important. Chinook wind. So here they are the Rockies. Chinook will come from here. They will ascend, will create rainfall in this. Let's say this is the western side of Rockies. This is Rocky, and here it is the eastern side of the Rocky. Now in the eastern side, what happens is they will gain the temperature. Why? Because whenever the winds come down, they will be adiabatically, they will become warmer. Because of this gaining temperature, what happens is in this rain shadow area, the ice or the snow will melt here. Therefore, it is also known as snow eater. Okay, so this is in the North America. Yes, it is hot and dry wind. This is true. Bora, it is not of South America. It is rather of the Europe, and it is the cold wind in the Europe. So this is not true. Sirocco is, let's say, if you see, this is the Africa. From this Africa, here it is the Sahara. From Sahara, this is nothing but a very hot and warm, hot and dry, let's say, winds will start and they will go over Mediterranean. While they are passing over Mediterranean, they will pick the moisture, and what happens is they will cause rainfall in the southern parts of Alps, especially in the Italy and France region. Now, because they are coming from Sahara, they have some red dust content. Red dust content with this rainfall gives the color of reddish in nature. This red color of rainfall is also known as blood rainfall. This local wind, which is hot and drier, coming from Sahara to the over Mediterranean region in the Europe, this is known as Sirocco. Okay, so what is this? Sirocco over Mediterranean region, yes, it is true, but it is not cold, it is warm. Okay, it is coming from Sahara, it is hot. So this is also incorrect, this is incorrect, this was correct. Harmattan, now see here, this is the equatorial region characterized with low pressure and also characterized with very high amount of moisture. What happens is, from Sahara's this high pressure, the winds will travel also towards this equatorial Guinea region. This is particularly coastal area, I'm talking about Guinea region. Now, because of excess of moisture, the conditions are very, let's say, injurious for the human health also here in this equatorial Guinea region, coastal area. Now, the dry and hot winds will start from Sahara. When they will reach into this low pressure equatorial Guinea, they will wipe out excessive moisture from the region. Okay, and therefore lack of moisture, or let's say excess supply of moisture, if it is wiped out, now the conditions will become favorable for the human's existence. And this type of wind, which was starting from here, responsible for wiping out of this too much of moisture content, this is known as Harmattan, or it is also known as doctor wind. So it is starting from Sahara Desert, yes. Hot and dry wind, yes. So how many options are correct here? The 2 options are correct. So answer should be B. Yes, answer is B. Consider the following state. They are asking about Western dedicated freight corridor. How many states, let's say, are there in this part? So this is nothing but, you can consider from Mumbai to Delhi, they are connected. So Maharashtra will come here, Gujarat will come here, Rajasthan will come here, then UP will also come here, Haryana will also come here. So Karnataka, no. Goa, no. Just consider from Mumbai onwards. Gujarat, yes. Haryana, yes. So 2 are the answer. It is about cold front. So what they are asking, which of the following statement is true about cold front? Now see here, what is cold front? See here, how the front will be decided whether this is the warm front or cold front. First thing is, what is front? Front is characterized by two C. One C stands for contrasting air masses and the second is convergence. If the contrasting means one is warm, second is cold, if they are converging together, contrast air masses and convergence, when they are converging together, this will form a front. So you will find this type of situation. Let's say this is equator here. You won't find the two contrasting air masses, therefore front will not develop here. In this region, you will find the contrasting air mass only in this region, from where the cold polarly is coming from the polar region and the warm westerlies will come from STHP lower region. So this is the area where fronts will be formed. Now, what is cold front and what is warm front? When the two contrasting air masses are merging or interacting, the slopy area, it is known as the front. Now this, let's say, cold front will be formed when the cold air mass is more active and it is encroaching the territory of warm air mass. And when warm is active and it is entering into the territory of cold, then we will consider that as warm front. So what is this cold front? Now see here, the cold front if I make, see here now. What are the features that you will see in the cold front? Now consider the warm is stationary. The warm air mass was here. This is the surface. In this superficial area, the warm air mass was resting. This is warm air mass. Now in this area, the cold air mass has entered. It is encroaching the territory of the warm air mass. Because it is encroaching the territory, it is entering, then we will call this as cold front. Okay? Now what will happen? Because cold air mass is heavier and denser, it will try to occupy the bottom. And in this bottom area, the warm air mass is resting. So what will happen now? This denser cold air mass will uplift this warmer air mass forcefully. Because of this forceful upliftment, what will happen? The warm air will be uplifted right vertical above in this manner. And this is how the warm air is uplifted above. Because of this rapid upliftment, the clouds are formed, the condensation will occur, and this condensation will result into the formation of cumulonimbus cloud. Remember one thing, whenever there is faster upliftment of the warm and moist air, it will result into vertical cooling, and vertical cooling will result often into cumulonimbus cloud formation. Now, what is the characteristics of the cold front? Now, say here, number one, in case of cold front, cold is aggressive. Number two, this area that you can see in the black line, this is the interaction zone or the slope at which the two interactions are going on. One side we have the cold air mass, second side we have the warm air mass which is being uplifted. Now, in case of this cold front, what you will find, in case of cold front, cumulonimbus cloud will be formed, slope will be steep. Because of this cloud, you will find heavy rainfall, you will find hailstorm also, you will find lightning as well. Okay, so all these features will be associated with the cold front. Now see this statement, the cold front they are asking, in case of cold front, the front remains stationary? No. The cold air mass moves towards the warm air mass? It is the answer. The cold is moving towards the warm air mass and then it is known as cold front. Okay. Now consider this statement. In this statement, it is given the crop is both tropical and subtropical in nature. Okay, both of the subtropical as well as in the tropics it can be grown. It requires a hot climatic condition in between 21 to 27 degrees C and annual rainfall of 75 to 100 centimeter. Yes. Then India is the second largest producer of this crop. By this third option, you can guess this one. Brazil is known for sugarcane cultivation, the first position, and India is at second position. So it is the sugarcane. In sugarcane, India is at the second position. For the sugarcane, these conditions are also required. Sugarcane is also the tropical and subtropical crop in nature. Okay, done. Next, consider the following mountain ranges. They are asking how many of them are fold mountain. So see, already I mentioned the 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐝 mountain, which was also asked in 2024 in PYQ, you will see 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐝, and there is one more mountain that is in the Europe, Black Forest mountain. They too are having the Rift Valley in between. This is Rhine Rift Valley. Rhine Rift Valley. In India, we have, this is the European block mountains. Hai na? Then in India, we have Satpura, we have Vindhyas. In Pakistan also, we have, let's say, the Salt Range. Okay. So it is easy. Andes and Himalayas are the example of fold mountains. 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐝 and Satpura is the example of what? It is the example of flat mountains or the block mountain. So 1 and 2 are the correct answer if the fold mountains are considered. So 2 are the correct answer. The northern hemisphere receives the most indirect sunlight during summer solstice. It is incorrect. Why? See here. In case of summer solstice, let's say this is the earth and here it is the axis at which it is inclined. Now what happens is, if I say this is the equator and here let's say this is the subtropic, here it is the Arctic Circle in the same way. Now see here, the sun is here, it is in this side. Now this sun is vertically overhead to 23.5 north. In case of summer solstice, I am talking about 21st June. Okay. Now see here, in this case, because earth is tilted towards the sun, more sunlight is received by northern hemisphere. And you can see here easily, half of the earth, which is from here, this is the half. This half is facing the sunlight. The other half is the black one. If I consider this is the black one, means this is in the darker side. This area is not receiving direct sunlight, right? Now see here, this is the condition of 21st June or the summer solstice in northern hemisphere. Now what is the question? The question is saying, in the northern hemisphere, in case of summer solstice, more indirect sunlight. This is not indirect sunlight. You can see here, northern hemisphere is receiving more direct sunlight. Okay, because it is directly overhead to northern hemisphere, exactly over 23.5 north. Okay, so the first statement is not true. Second is saying the southern hemisphere receives the most indirect sunlight during the winter solstice. It is also incorrect. Okay. Now see here, first let me tell you about this one. Now see here some more things, because it has been asked about summer solstice. Here I am telling you, last year one question was asked in the BYQ. Which of the following areas will receive more than 12 hours of sunlight? Now see here, in case of the summer solstice, what you will see from here, I am changing the color. See here, this part of the equator, it is under the daytime. It is receiving the sunlight, and half of the part exactly is in the darker side. So in equator, 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night you can see. Okay, even in the summer solstice. In the second case, you can see half part of, let's say, half part of this 23 and third, it is here in the sunlight. So 12 hours, this much is in the 12 hours. Plus additionally, you can see because of the tilt here, more parts are receiving sunlight. Yes. So can I say in this entire area, it would be more than 12 hours of daytime would be here? Yes or no? Yes. Then you can see from in this 66.5 onwards, this is Arctic Circle. Beyond this Arctic Circle, you can see this entire area is under the sunlight. There is no concept of night here. All the time, 24 hours, it is the sunlight can be found easily. So this is therefore known as the land of midnight sun. Land of midnight sun. So you can consider in case of summer solstice, from equator to north pole, the number of hours under the daytime will increase, and reverse will happen in case of southern hemisphere. From equator to northern side, if you will go, you will see the dark hours are increasing, the night hours are increasing, and day hours are reducing. So one very simple question was asked last year, which of the following areas will receive more than 12 hours sunlight in summer solstice? Answer was this one and this other areas. Equator will receive 12 hours, not more than 12 hours. So this was the simple question. Now see here, all the locations north of the equator have days longer than 12 hours during summer solstice. Is it true? All locations north to equator. Is it true? Answer is yes. Now you can see exactly here it is the 12 hour. Now if you will go over this, let's say equator to polar area, the day hours will increase. So this is also true. Third is true. Okay. Then all locations south of the equator have days longer than 12 hours during winter solstice. It is, now see here, winter solstice I will explain. Okay. See here, this is the summer solstice we have learned. Now let me make this winter solstice diagram. In case of winter solstice, see here now. When they are saying simple solstice, consider that is for the northern hemisphere by default, if they are not mentioning, okay? Then let's say this is the earth, again I'm making, this is the earth. And here, let's say this is tilted. This time, we are talking about winter solstice. Sun is here. In case of winter solstice, this is the equator. Now see here, the light is exactly dividing this area, let's say from here now. Yes, the darker area is this one. This is the dark side, Hannah. And the other area that you can see here, now see here, the sun is exactly over this time. It is over 23.5 south side, and therefore it is winter for which hemisphere? For the northern hemisphere. So this is winter solstice for the northern hemisphere. Now what you can see is, because of the tilt of the earth towards the sun, this time the southern hemisphere is receiving more sunlight, and hence it is summer for the southern hemisphere. And because we are tilting away from this sun, hence it is the summer for northern hemisphere. Now what will happen, see here, it is now in this case, you will see one thing, that is from equator. Just see here, the half part of equator, if I change the color, the half part of the equator is under the dark hour, so 12 hour of night, and half part is in the light, so 12 hour of day. Now what will happen, you will see the more parts are receiving, let's say, the sunlight. So 12 hour plus here, and 24 hour plus would be the day hours. So this time from equator to south pole, if you will go, day hours will increase. Okay? So now see here, all locations south of the equator have days longer than 12 hours during winter solstice. Is it true? Answer is yes. You can see here, this is the winter solstice. The day hours are increasing. So third and fourth statements are true. 1 and 2 are not. Answer is 3 and 4 are the correct option. This area is very important. The questions are being asked in the prelims multiple times in last 5 years. Twice the question has been asked from this area. Okay, rotation and revolution of the earth. Now, Panama Canal, often seen in news, it connects, it is simple. You can see Gulf of Panama and Caribbean Sea, they are connected by this Panama Canal. Okay, mapping based. So, geography, we are finished here. Just give me a minute. एक पार्ट हुआ है, थोड़े से बचे हैं. कितने बचे गए? थोड़े बहुत. एक आधा, एक सब्जेक्ट हो गया. हाँ, बस. करें? So, geography questions we have discussed, Hannah. Now we are starting the environments question. So let's start with the first question. The first question is about Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program. It was recently in news. So This program actually it was launched in 2014 and 15, and it is being implemented by National Horticulture Board along with ICAR. Now, what is the primary aim of this initiative? The primary aim is to, let's say, ensure the availability of high quality virus-free planting material for the horticultural crop. That is the aim. है ना? So this is about the Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program. Again, I'm saying it was launched in 2014 and 15. It is being implemented by National Horticulture Board in association with ICAR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research. The main aim is to ensure the availability of planting material which is virus free for the horticulture crop. Okay. Next is about CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Very important this initiative is. Now, what is the idea? Let me tell you. This is the Europe here. So this program, that is CBAM, is nothing but a kind of carbon border adjustment mechanism. Now, there is a program in Europe that is Fit for 55 package, in which what they are doing, the Europe is, let's say, pulling their companies or directing its companies or the various sector which are carbon intensive sector to switch to cleaner technologies, or we can say to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, if they will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions or invest in technologies, that is clean technologies, their cost of production will increase, yes or no? Yes. For example, if it is the steel company, now because steel company is investing in technology in the Europe, their cost of production will increase. Whereas the countries like India and China, where the regulation, environment regulation are not much stringent, there the steel production can use the thermal, let's say, energy. Now, what happens is the steel production in case of India, in case of China, may not be energy efficient process. Means more carbon emissions can be there by this steel production in India compared to the steel production in Europe. So now what the Europe is saying, that I will put some taxes on this carbon intensive sectors or the goods which are coming into Europe. Why? Because I want to create a level playing field in between our companies and the other companies. Their steel should not be cheaper. Otherwise, my companies will suffer. So it is a kind of tariff which will be imposed on the goods coming from the countries where the environmental regulations are not much stringent. Okay. However, it is being criticized by the developing countries as a kind of non-tariff barrier. Okay? But Europe is saying that I am fixing the carbon leakage. What is carbon leakage? And creating the level playing field for my companies. What is carbon leakage? For example, this is company A, which was producing 100 ton of steel in Europe. Now, under the stringent mechanism Fit for 55 program, let's say, they are supposed to invest in cleaner technologies. What they can do otherwise, they can shift their manufacture base into the countries like India and China. And then they can also send their steel to other route into Europe, okay, without following this stringent mechanism. So in that way, Europe is saying the carbon emissions here, they can be transferred in some other country. And this is nothing but leakage of the carbon. So Europe is saying I am creating level playing field as well as I am fixing this type of carbon leakages. If some company will go into India and China, then I will put some tariff and let's say taxes, so that the goods which are produced with lack of energy efficient technologies, if they are entering into Europe, they should be paid, let's say they should pay some of the tariff, right? So this is CBAM mechanism. Highly it is being criticized. One-sided measure it is taken, let's say unilaterally by the Europe itself. It is also shifting the burden of developed countries. Developed countries were historically responsible for the climate change. Now it is their duty under Article 9 of Paris Agreement. They are, let's say, under the obligation to provide financial support as well as technical support to the developing countries. But now the onus has been shifted with this Europe's move of CBAM. The onus of clean technologies, invest in clean technologies, has been shifted now on the burden of India, China, and other developing countries, which are already struggling with lack of resources, right? So this is how it is being criticized. What this is saying, now read the statement. It is a policy tool introduced by European Union, yes, to ensure that imported goods face the same carbon cost as domestically. Yes, this is true. The main goal of CBAM is to prevent deforestation. It is not the main aim. What is the main aim? To create the level playing field. Hana? So this is not true. Answer is, what should be the answer? One is true, second is not. So answer is simple. Phytoplanktons are microscopic organisms that drift in aquatic environment, है ना? environment, and are classified into phytoplankton and zooplankton. Okay. In this context, which of the following organism is an example of zooplankton? Zooplankton you are supposed to identify. See here, Anabaena. It is a phytoplankton, not the zooplankton. So this is phytoplankton. It is not true therefore. Rotifiers, I will come to this one. This chlorella, this is also a phytoplankton. Coccolithophore, this is also a phytoplankton. One more that you can remember. Phytoplanktons are also known, let's say, diatoms. Then flagellates. Flagellates. These all are the phytoplankton. So here the clear answer is rotifiers. Rotifiers are the example of zooplankton. Some more zooplanktons if you want to write. These all, let's say, Anabaena, chlorella, coccolithophore, diatom, flagellates, they all are the example of phytoplankton. Whereas if I give you some examples of, let's say, zooplankton. So in the zooplankton, you can have, for example, the one itself is rotifier. Then you can have crustaceans, है ना? Then starfish, zooplankton itself, rotifers, right? These are the names which are. And yes, protozoa also, protozoa. These all are the example of zooplankton. So answer here it is rotifers. Some more answers are also given in your paper. You can see the examples of zooplanktons more. Teal carbon. Some terms were, let's say, in the newspaper. One term is teal carbon. What is teal carbon? When the carbon is stored in the wetland. Wetlands are known as the best carbon sinks. Yes, na? With having, let's say, very less global area under the wetlands, around 6.5% is the area. They are, let's say, responsible for absorption of around 14.5% of soil carbon. Okay? They are very efficient carbon sink. Now see here, the carbon when it is stored in non-tidal freshwater wetland, then this teal carbon is used if the carbon is stored in non-tidal freshwater wetlands. Okay. Then what is greenium? Greenium is green premium. Now what is green premium? For example, you have one bond. Okay, this is A bond. Now if the A bond, if you are purchasing, let's say this is the buyer. If the A bond is purchased by this buyer, the premium of bond, let's say it was 100 rupee, and after the realization, let's say it gives 108 rupees to the buyer. This is one bond. There is another bond that is B, which is a green bond. Green bond, let's say it is of the value of 100, and when it will be realized after certain years, it will give only the amount of 103 rupees. This is hypothetical example. Now what happens is, let's say the amount has been saved on this green bond, or we can say the buyer will get some less amount after investing in the green bond. Why? Because green bonds are investing in the green infrastructure or in the green projects. So in a way, you can consider let's say the buyer is considering to invest in such green infrastructure. Okay? It can be, let's say, sustainable investment by this buyer. So this term, which is known as green premium, okay, in which the issuer, that is the issuer of the green bond, is saving some money. So this is also correct, means the saving which is an issuer having on the green bonds, right? So this is known as green premium or greenium. What is carbon farming? When the carbon is used as a, let's say, fertilizer. In case of plants growth, the two necessary things are required. One is, let's say, the sunlight. The second is CO2 also. So with this sunlight and CO2, what will happen? The photosynthesis will occur. Then this is very crucial for the plant's growth, photosynthesis, yes. Now, if you have more carbon in your soil which is carbon rich, it will help the fertility in that area. So this concept where the carbon is used as a fertilizer and it is promoting the growth of the crop, this is known as carbon fertilization. And the concept, if it is used in the farming, the same concept of fertilization, carbon fertilization, then it is known as carbon farming. So for example, if I tell you, let's say this is the example I'm giving you. For example, what happens is, this is the soil. If I am spraying some carbon, let's say, that I have collected from carbon sequestration. So if the soil, let's say if the carbon is sprayed in the soil, what will happen? The carbon content will increase. This will promote the growth of plants here. And this growth, when it is supported, this concept is known as carbon fertilization, and this farming practice is known as carbon farming. So all three are correct. Yes. National park sanctuaries with unique fauna species. Great Himalayan National Park, it is in Himachal Pradesh, है ना? And Hangul is, by name itself you can see, it is Kashmiri stag. Earlier it was found, it is critically endangered, the first thing that you should know, है ना? Earlier it was also found in nearby Himachal area, but nowadays it is confined to one national park which is here in the Kashmir, that is 𝐾𝐨 National Park. 𝐾𝐨 National Park. So it is not found in this great Himalayan National Park. One is incorrect. Manas National Park, pygmy hog. Yes, that is true. Pygmy hog is the smallest pig species existing on the, let's say, on this planet. It is also an indicator species. Indicator of what? Indicator of grassland's health. है ना? Grassland's health. And it is found only in this area of Manas National Park. That is true. है ना? Second is true. Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary, which is very famous for saltwater crocodile. It is not known for Jordan cursor. Jordan cursor, it was earlier considered as extinct species. But anyhow, we found some of the Jordan cursor. It is, let's say, this is the, here it is, the Eastern Ghats of Andhra Pradesh. है ना? It is endemic to Eastern Ghats of Andhra Pradesh region here. One wildlife sanctuary is there, that is Sri Lanka Maleshwar. है ना? So in this wildlife sanctuary of Andhra Pradesh, they are found. So Bhitarkanika is not correct. The only correct answer here, it is Manas National Park. That is one option is correct. That is second. Next is Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. Consider the following statement. It was established during the COP28. It is wrong. It was established in case of COP26. है ना? First statement is not true. So you can eliminate. We are left with the answer of 2 and 3. Now what you can learn from here. What is the aim of this GEAPP? It is nothing but country-led initiative. It is not under UNFCCC. However, it was launched on the sidelines of UNFCCC COP26, but it is not under UNFCCC. Now the aim is to provide the clean energy at least to 1 billion population, also to generate the jobs. Take green jobs will be generated. And in this, they are also aligning with International Solar Alliance, that is headquartered in Gurugram. So International Solar Alliance, it is nothing but dealing with the clean energy, that is the solar energy. So GEAPP will aim at providing clean energy. It is also collaborating with the International Solar Alliance, and it will also create the green jobs. So what are the options? One of the key objective is to accelerate the renewable energy. Yes, that is true. It has recently signed this, yes, with the ISA. True. With reference to Gangetic and Irrawaddy dolphins, consider the following. Unlike the Gangetic dolphin, which are nearly blind, yes, Gangetic dolphins, also known as Susu, they are also the national aquatic animal of India. They are, let's say, almost you can say they are blind, but the Irrawaddy dolphins, which are found in this Odisha region, they are not blind. So yes, that is true. They will use the, let's say, the Gangetic dolphins will use the concept of echolocation, Whereas the 𝐼𝐴 dolphin can see the objects, they have the eyesight. Yes, it is true. Unlike the gangetic dolphin, which can thrive in both freshwater and marine, this is not true for gangetic dolphin. They are strictly freshwater dolphin, whereas the other one, 𝐼𝐴 dolphin, can survive in both freshwater as well as marine. So this is not true. Okay. Both species are classified as critically endangered. No, it is not true. The one is I think this is the gangetic dolphin, which is critically endangered. The other is not. So the option is one is true. That is, one statement is only true, not the other. If I tell you the exact status of the gangetic dolphin, wait. Gangetic dolphin is endangered. The 𝐼𝐴 is critically endangered, है ना? So just see here. Both species are not critically endangered. The one is, that is, the gangetic dolphin is endangered, and 𝐼𝐴 is critically endangered. Okay. Next question. What is Baku Harmonia Climate Initiative? There was one COP which was held, COP of 29, and it was held in Baku, Azerbaijan. It was under UNFCCC. Recently, this was happened. One initiative, which is Baku Harmonia Initiative, was launched. Under this initiative, what was the aim? In this, the main aim was to make the agriculture climate smart. है ना? Climate smart agriculture. There is one more thing which happened in COP 27. Some background I'm giving you. There was one initiative, that is Food and Agricultural Sustainable Transformation Initiative, FAST initiative. Under this one also, the FAO, it was launched under Food and Agricultural Organization, in which the food systems were supposed to be in the line of 1.5 degrees C temperature limit of Paris Agreement. Means what we are saying, we were saying in this COP 27 under FAST initiative that our agricultural systems, because from agriculture also there are emissions which are released. So these emissions should not cross the limit of 1.5 degrees C that we have set under Paris Agreement. That was the aim of FAST initiative. In the same way, under UNFCCC's this Baku COP 29, Baku Harmonia Climate, this initiative, Baku Harmonia initiative, in this also the climate smart agriculture has been emphasized. This is nothing but it was launched under, this will be taken care of under FAST, and that is nothing but the initiative of FAO. So you can connect these dots, Hannah, so that you can memorize them better. Now see here, it has been launched in the COP 29. It is, yes, it is true. Second is, it focuses on empowering women and youth farmers. Yes, that is also true. Okay. Climate resilient villages. It has set a target of creating additional greenhouse gas sink. No, it's not true. Rather, it is INDC of India. Okay. It's not true. It aims to catalyze investment in agri-food transformation. That is also true. So what is, we are supposed to identify incorrect one na? So what is the incorrect one? C is the incorrect. D is also correct. Hai na? Answer is C. Next is, consider the following statement. How many of the following substances can be used effectively for the treatment of soil acidification? So let's say if you want to treat the acid, then you will have to come up with basic elements. In the first statement itself, it is given basic slag. It will be used. Answer is yes. Flue dust from the cement plant. It will also be used because in the cement plants, let's say in the flue gases, you will find lime content. Lime is known for its basic properties. So you can treat this acidic content with the second option also. Ammonium sulfate based fertilizers. Fertilizers are not useful. They will increase the acidity. So third, you can eliminate. Decomposed organic matter from animal remains. Decomposition will be because of some acid which is released by some organism. So that will increase the acid content. It will not be used. Pressed mud for the sugar, from the sugarcane. Yes, pressed mud is rich in case of organic matter as well as CaCO3. So this will be used in the treatment. So 1, 2 and 5 are correct. How many options should be there? B. 3 options are correct. India's State of Forest Report, which was recently released in 2023. Every 2 years, this report is release, है ना? The first statement says what we are supposed to identify, correct statement. The first statement says the total forest and tree cover of the country is 33%. No, it's not 33%. It is around now 25%. है ना? So this is incorrect. The maximum increase in the forest and tree cover compared to the last assessment is in Madhya Pradesh. No, maximum decline has been registered in the Madhya Pradesh, whereas maximum increase of the forest cover has been registered in Chhattisgarh. Okay? So second is incorrect. The total mangrove cover of the country is around 3% of the land area. It is not 3%. It is somewhere around 0.15%. So only last option we are left with. India's total forest and tree cover carbon sink has, let's say, the value of 30 billion tons. This is also true. According to this report also, you may be familiar, answer we have reached, this is the D. According to, let's say, this IFSR survey, that is Indian State of Forest Report survey, see here now. According to this survey, we have promised in Paris INDC that India will create the sink of 2.5 to 3 billion ton capacity. Means we will absorb the carbon, means we will create nothing but the forest resources so that we can absorb the carbon of this much of the capacity. Under Paris we promised, and according to this survey, India since 2005 till 2023 has reached somewhere the additional capacity of 2.29 billion tons. Means we are already, let's say, very close to close this target. Okay, so that additional information also you can remember. With reference to biodiversity of India, consider the following animal species. How many of the animal species are nocturnal? So this is nowadays the trend has been set by the UPSC, where some of the species they are asking whether, let's say, what type of behavior of that species is. So here you can see 𝐏𝐫𝐽, it is nocturnal. Yes, it is true. 𝐿 macaque is actually diurnal, means it can come both in day and as well as in night. Red panda, mostly it is nocturnal. Malabar civet is also nocturnal. This is also nocturnal. So the answer is generally nocturnal. So generally nocturnal means this is nocturnal, है ना? This is nocturnal, this is nocturnal. 3. So answer is 3. Lion-tailed macaque, it is diurnal. Consider the following tree species. See here, they are asking about evergreen forests. Any is the evergreen, rosewood is the evergreen, babool is the deciduous forest, tropical deciduous, both in the moist and dry deciduous it can be found. Sorry, not babool, mahua. Mahua is tropical deciduous, moist or dry deciduous it can be. Babool is rather a thorn forest, है ना? Found mostly in the semi-arid and arid areas. So how many species are there? Tropical forest, any and rosewood. Bisphenol A. Bisphenol A, last year there was a question about PFA. PFA was nothing but a permanent, or we can say forever chemical. In the similar way, the BPA is very infamous. This is most of the time it is used in the bottles of the water for the packaging of this lid of the bottle, right? So whenever you are using the plastic bottles for the water, be careful because bisphenol A is used in the same. This is highly carcinogenic. Okay, so it is used in the production of polycarbonate plastic bottles. Yes, it is used in the thermal coating of thermal papers. Acha, one more thing you may have seen, the print when they are given from, let's say, smaller machine, the ATM machines, the print slip, that is known as thermal paper. And in this thermal paper also, this BPA is used. So that is also true. Okay? One is true, second is true. It is considered an endocrine disruptor and can disrupt the normal hormone. Yes, it is highly carcinogenic, can disrupt the functioning of the body. So all 1, 2, 3 are correct. Bisphenol A is highly in use. Consider the following species. I think this is very simple. It is food chain. Grasshopper will be eaten by frog. Frog will be eaten by a snake. A snake will be eaten by eagle. So the sequence is 1, 2, 4, 3. What should be the answer? 1, 2, 4, 3. So 1, 2, 4, 3. C is the answer. Consider the following, which of them are edible oils? See, except castor seed oil, all of the example are edible seed oils. This is the example, all are the example. This is not the edible oil, so answer is 3 are the edible oils. NGT has recently instructed the Kerala government to remove hazardous waste that was illegally dumped in Tamil Nadu. Yes, that is true. Recently, it was directed by NGT that Kerala should remove that hazardous waste from the Tamil Nadu. NGT can provide relief and compensation. That is true. It can provide relief and compensation, but not under Wildlife Protection Act. Some other acts are there. For example, Environment Protection Act, Air Act, Water Act. These are the act, but not under Wildlife Protection Act. This is not true. NGT can provide relief and compensation for environmental damage. This is true under EPA Act. Yes, that is true. So second is not true. 1 and 3, they are correct. So what should be the answer? Only one of these statements, second and third, is correct. Yes, that is true. That explains this statement 1. Fine. The last one is not last one. I think we have some more questions. No, last one. The last question is, consider the following examples of the Ramsar list. Ramsar sites are always important, and India has now 89 sites till date. ख़ज़ू Valley Bird Life Sanctuary, this is in Tamil Nadu, okay, not in Kerala. Nanjuran also, it is in Tamil Nadu. Highest number of sites are now in the Tamil Nadu. Tawa Reservoir, Tawa Plateau is in MP. So it is not in Uttar Pradesh, it is in MP. Magadi Kere Conservation Reserve, it was declared recently in Karnataka. So this is true. Okay. So how many are correctly matched? 1 only. The fourth one. So answer is 1. So with this, we are ending our discussion here. And with the Ramsar list, please be prepared, especially those wetlands which has been declared very recently on 2nd February 2025, as well as those which were declared in 2024 and 2023. They also become important for your examination, right? So we are ending here. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well this evening. I hope you're doing well today. So today we are going to discuss certain questions with regards to history and art and culture, with reference to the kind of questions that were asked in Simulator-0. A general assessment that can actually be made with respect to the questions that were asked in the paper is that yes, number one, the questions were largely aligned with the broader ambit of the kind of questions that are asked in the preliminary examination, CSE preliminary examination. Also, it is very important to understand here that the level of the questions has largely been moderate in nature. Okay, so let us see the kind of questions that are there. So yes, the first question is with respect to the following pairs of literary works, which of these are attributed to playwright Shudrak? So Shudrak, a very, very important playwright from ancient Indian history. So first you have Mrichkatikam and then Swapnavasav Dattam. So let us see Mrichkatikam and Swapnavasav Dattam. So Mrichkatikam, it is written by Shudrak, yes. It is written by Shudrak, but Swapnavasav Dattam, it is not written by Shudrak. Why? Because it is written by Bhas. Right? It is written by Bhas, a playwright again from post-modern period, largely attributed to post-modern period by different scholars like M.R. Kale. And then you have Vinavasav Datta and Mrichkatikam. Yes, Vinavasav Dattam and Mrichkatikam, they are both actually attributed to Shudrak. Mrichkatikam is about the story of a poor Brahmin, called Charudat. And it is the story of, it is a love story between Charudat and a Ganika called Vasantsena. And then you have Swapnavasav Dattam. Swapnavasav Dattam is the story again of Vasav Datta and Udayan. And it is about the dream about Vasav Datta. And Vinavasav Datta and Mrichkatikam are both written by Shudrak. Bal Bharat and Mrichkatikam we have already seen here. Bal Bharat is written by Rajshekhar. All right, Rajshekhar. And Karpur Manjari, Bal Bharat is about the story of Mahabharat actually. And Karpur Manjari is also, Karpur Manjari is written in Maharashtrian Prakrit. It is actually written Maharashtrian Prakrit. Right? And with regards to Karpur Manjari, there is this one more text that is actually written by Rajshekhar. There is one more text written by Rajshekhar, which is excuse me. Kavya Mimamsa. Kavya Mimamsa. Mimamsa, Kavya Mimamsa, right? On poetics. Also, it is very important to note that since we are already doing Rajshekhar, so he was a court poet of the Pratiharas of Kannauj. He was a court poet of the Pratiharas of Kannauj. Right? Kannauj Pratiharas. Also, it is very important, this year you might as well just look through the works of Dandan, or for that matter Bharvi as well. Why do I say that? Because clearly इस बार मेंस में उन्होंने पल्लवास के बारे में पूछा है, Dandan and Bharvi. And Dandan and Bharvi, they were the court poets from Pallavas, so it is very important that you also look through the literary sources of the Pallavas. Okay, all right, next question. Let's just, so the correct option here is Veena Vasavdattam and Mritchikatikam. Next one, which of the following Indian cities are included under the category of music in UNESCO's Creative Cities Network, right? So let us just see. So clearly, Varanasi, yes. Gwalior, yes. Mumbai, not really. Chennai, yes. So it is 1, 2 and 4. Ab ye, with respect to UNESCO's Creative Cities Network, so it was a program instituted by UNESCO in 2004. It was in 2004. And if you look at it, so it is also very important to understand here that around 300 cities have been incorporated under different categories within this program. Also, it is very important to understand that there are different cities. The latest one that has been incorporated is Kozhikode. All right, so if we look at it, so clearly it is Kozhikode and Gwalior also, and Gwalior. राइट यहाँ पे एक बार हम देख लेते हैं कि कौन कौन सी सिटीज को किस किस कैटेगरी में रखा गया है, बिकॉज क्लियरली there have been different categories, right? So let us just see. Okay, let us just see. So clearly it is सबसे पहले किस सिटी को रखा गया था? सबसे पहले it was yes. सबसे पहले we should see then you go back to Jaipur. So Jaipur was actually the very first city. Jaipur and Banaras, both of them were the very first cities that were actually incorporated into this program. So Jaipur and Banaras, then here you have Banaras or Varanasi. Okay. So Gwalior is for music, Varanasi is for music, Jaipur and Srinagar are for folk art forms, right? And then you have Hyderabad. Hyderabad for gastronomy. For gastronomy, right? And then you have Chennai. And then you have Kozhikode. Hyderabad for gastronomy, okay? For food. Gastronomy means food, okay? Chennai again for musical traditions, and then you have Kozhikode for literature. You know, it is a literature oriented city. So clearly we have Chennai, we have Gwalior, we have Banaras. All right, so these three are for with regard to music, okay? So this is precisely how you are supposed to go about it. ये 2023 में ये दोनों cities ऐड हुई थी और सबसे पहले जो हुई थी it was around 2015 Jaipur and Banaras. So please just make sure that you know about these details. UNESCO's World Heritage Site includes list properties outstanding. So yes, which of these are India's only World Heritage Site under mixed category? So let us see. Sundarbans, yes, certainly Sundarbans. The Sundarbans very, very popular for the kind of ecosystem that they kind of provide, right? It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then you have natural sites as well, and some of them are mixed sites. Why? Because clearly they provide a juxtaposition, a combination of both natural and natural and cultural heritage as well, right? So clearly it is Sundarbans snow, and then you have rock shelters of 𝐵𝐸𝐵𝐻𝐾𝐫. Rock shelters of 𝐵𝐸𝐵𝐻𝐾𝐫 in Madhya Pradesh. They provide information about what? They provide information about Mesolithic period, largely Mesolithic period. हालांकि अलग-अलग time period से हमें मिलते हैं यहाँ पे. And then Champaner Pavagadh Archaeological Park. So again, it is a very important archaeological site in the regions of Gujarat, right? In the regions of Gujarat. All right. Also, it is very important to note that kis tarike se, how can we really look at it? So clearly it was 𝐻𝐻𝐿 Chowda, the Chowda king, who had been very instrumental in establishing it. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 Chowda, who had been very, very instrumental in establishing this particular dynasty, this particular archaeological park. But of course, you know, even in later period also, you find the rich archaeological sources with regard to different historical periods. Okay, यहाँ पे if you look at it, so Kalika Mata temple is also very important. Kalika Mata temple. But clearly, it is an important cultural site, but not a mixed heritage site. Mixed heritage site is Kanchenjunga National Park. Okay, Kanchenjunga National Park, very, very important, and especially with regards to what? With regards to it is with regard to the Lepcha tribe. With regard to Lepcha tribe that has resided here. Also, it is very important that different lakes or different riverine systems that are there, so clearly serve a lot of cultural importance as well. So this is one of the major reasons that it has been termed as the only mixed heritage site under UNESCO. Okay, so D is the correct option here. Let us see. Yes. Which of the following statements are correct with regard to Rajamoonjay Pact of 1932? So a rather very direct kind of a question. Let us see. It advocated for the reservation of seats for minorities in the central legislature. No. It advocated for joint electorates with reservations of seats for depressed classes. Yes. This is rather the correct option here. Why? Because it was the principle of joint electorates was chosen here with reservation of seats for depressed classes. It was for Hindu unity. Hindu unity, right? And was signed. It was signed between B.S. Munje and M.C. Raja. It was signed between B.S. Munje and M.C. Raja. The founder of All India Depressed Classes League, right? Yes. So rather a very, very direct kind of a question. Let us just move on to the next one. Yes, in context of Government of India Act 1958, which of the following responsibilities were transferred from East India Company to British Crown? Control over all territories of East India Company in India. Yes, they were transferred to the British Crown. Command of military and naval forces maintained by East India Company. Yes, this was also done there, as we have seen it already. And then authority over revenue collection and obligations incurred by the East India Company. So yes, this is also correct. So clearly all three statements are correct. Rather, if you have studied the Act of 958, very, very important act. So it is all these three statements, they kind of contribute to that particular act, right? Next one, with regard to Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946. With regard to Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946, the Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946 contained proposals regarding the constitutional future of India. In this context, consider the following. There shall be a Union of India which would deal with subjects like foreign affairs, defense and communication. Yes. Excuse me. Yes. And residuary powers were to be invested in provincial governments. Yes. True. It proposed allocation of seats in provincial legislative assemblies to be done between general, Muslim and Sikh. So the non-Muslims and non-Sikhs were constituted under the general category. Sikhs in province based in proportion to their population. Yes, this is also correct. So clearly a very simple kind of a formulation of the options has been seen here with regard to Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946. So rather very, very basic. So it is very important that it is very imperative that you are well aware of these major events in modern Indian history. It is only then that it becomes more and more easy, right? Let us see, with reference to the ancient Indian literature, which of these are the organs of Vedang? So यहाँ पे first of all, what is Vedang? So Vedang are the limbs of the Vedas. They are the limbs of the Vedas, right? They elaborate upon the nature of Vedas, but they were written in the later Vedic. They were written in the post-Vedic period. Okay, they were written in the post-Vedic period. And इससे पहले क्या लिखा गया था? It was the Rig Veda from 1500 to 1000 BC. And from 1000 BC, roughly, circa from 1000 BC to 600 BC, it was the later Vedic period, which had what? Which had the Upanishads. So Rig Veda, Samhitas of what? Samhitas of Yajurved. नहीं, एक order ले लेते हैं. Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved. Samhitas were written, and Samhitas के बाद में you had Aranyakas. Then you had the Brahmanas. And then you had the Upanishads. Okay, तो ये पूरा एक थोड़ा सा chronology पता होनी चाहिए. And then you have the post-Vedic period में, if you look at it, so it is the Vedang tradition. It is the Vedang tradition that comes after this. Vedang tradition में है क्या? There are different kinds of so if you look at it, so it is very important to understand Vedang tradition mein, it is, first of all, it is what? Let's say Shiksha. So Shiksha is about what? Shiksha is about the ways in which these ceremonies, these Vedic hymns, they are supposed to be placed. Okay, and then you have Nirukt, the etymological dictionary. You know, a certain kind of a dictionary which speaks about the etymology of the Vedic tradition, right? And then you have what? Chand. So what is Chand? So Chand is again, you know, a certain kind of a metrical structure of the Vedic hymns that are there. So after Chand you have Vyakran. All right. So Vyakran mein what do you have? You have the grammar. You have the grammar related aspects, and then you have Kalp, and at last you have Jyotish. Okay, the astrology. So clearly, these are the different kinds of Vedangas that are there. Okay, so whenever there is a question that, you know, what comes first, so it is the Vedang tradition that actually comes before the Kavya tradition. It is only much later that you have the Kavya tradition and all of those things are there. Or for that matter, whenever somebody asks you that whenever the Puranas were composed before the Upanishads, no, the Upanishads were composed before. Upanishads were composed before Vedang tradition or after Vedang tradition. So yes, prior to the Vedang tradition. Okay, so this is, so Nirukt यहाँ पे गलत है. और I hope Aranyakas, you know what are Aranyakas? The forest books that are there and associated with the Vedas. They talk about the philosophy of Ved. And then Upanishads also kind of talk about the philosophy of Ved, but as an extension, as a major extension to the kind of rituals that are there with respect to the Vedas. Brahmanas, they explain the rituals and, you know, all of these practices that were adopted by the Vedic tradition. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So yes, next one, the Arhats. The Arhats are the enlightened beings who choose to postpone their own nirvana in order to help others attain enlightenment. Who are Arhats? Arhats are those people, and they are very important with respect to Theravada Buddhism. Okay, they are very important with regard to Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism है क्या? Theravada Buddhism by traditional तरीके का एक Buddhism का ही sect है. You know, one of the oldest sects of Buddhism. Also, it is very important to understand here that postpone their own enlightenment. So Arhats, they would not really, they were the ones who would gain enlightenment. They would not really postpone it for the other beings. Those are bodhisattvas. So the first option here is wrong. And then you have bodhisattvas refer to an individual who has attained nirvana but not seek to guide others on that path. No, it is again, you know, it is actually kind of Arhat. It is actually Arhat. So they have kind of, you know, interchanged these two statements with each other. Sotpanna refers to an individual who has entered the path of enlightenment and will attain nirvana in few rebirths. Yes, this is actually true. This is, you know, one of the preliminaries, you know, preliminary stages where one has entered the path of enlightenment. Okay, so Sotpanna is very important here. Yes, Thera Gatha Khudak Nikaya ka part hai. You must have heard Thera Gatha. Theri Gatha, again, you know, senior female monks, Theri Gatha and Thera Gatha, very important text. If you have heard of Thera Gatha from Khudak Nikaya of Buddhism, you would automatically understand this option here again. Were the senior monks and Buddhists sung and wisdom and experience, respected for their wisdom and experience. But if there is a Buddhist monk who is a Thera and he is he has a lot of experience with regards to the kind of principles of Buddhism or has been practicing Buddhism for a really long time, so that person was called Mahathera. right? So it is true. This and this is correct, and this, they are actually very simple terms. यहाँ पे एक और term आप याद रख लीजिएगा इस बार, भूमि. Why? Because clearly they have already asked about what? They have already asked about Bodhisattva, they have asked about Paramitas, but now this time they might just ask about Bhumi. What is Bhumi? Bhumi is 10 different stages. 10 different stages in which one kind of gets onto that path of Bodhisattva to become a Bodhisattva, right? Yes. So it is 3 and 4 only. Yes. So now let us just see what is this. So let us just see which of these pairs are correctly matched. Yes. So Ojjiana is a chalcolithic site in Rajasthan. Yes, it is actually an important chalcolithic site, and यहाँ पे it is associated with Ahar culture, Ahar or Banas culture, right? Very, very important with respect to its pottery. So you should know about Ahar culture, you should know about Kayath culture, Malwa culture, and Jorwe culture as well. I'm not going to get into the details of all of those cultures, but they are very, very important with respect to the chalcolithic sites. Okay, and then you have Arikamedu from Kerala, ancient trading port. So no, it is actually not in Kerala, it is in Tamil Nadu. Also, if it is very important to understand, it was a sorry, it is in Puducherry, and यहाँ पे it is in Puducherry, to be more precise, right? यहाँ पे if you look at it, so it is very important to understand here that it was a major sea trading port. It also refers to Sangam age as well, and also it is very important to understand here. Excuse me. It is also very important to understand here that Roman trade was also carried out on this particular fort, on this particular port, right? And then you have 𝐾𝐨. And then you have 𝐾𝐨. So 𝐾𝐨 is the only Ashokan rock edict, major Ashokan rock edict from North India, right? And it is from Uttarakhand, and it is also very important. Why? Because it has also been asked in a PYQ. And then 𝐅𝐨𝐵 from Karnataka. It is also a major burial site, one of the largest burial sites actually, one of the largest burial sites from Karnataka, right? So it is very important that this time you make sure that you are doing the Ashokan edicts as well, or for that matter major megalithic sites, because last year it was only in 2024 that they had also asked about megalithic sites, one of the megalithic sites, right? So yes, only 3, yes. So it is this from it should have been Puducherry, but clearly they have mentioned it wrong here. So yes, only 3. Next one, with respect to the Mahajanpadas of ancient India, the capital of which of the Mahajanpadas lies south of the river Narmada? So clearly it is it is 𝐼𝐴𝐴. It is 𝐼𝐴𝐴. Why? Because clearly if you look at it, so 𝐼𝐴𝐴 is the only actually Mahajanpad which lies south to the Vindhyas. So yes, it is relatively much more easier. And यहाँ पे if you look at it, so it is very important that you should also know about, so the northernmost would be Kamboj, the easternmost would be Ang, and the southernmost would be 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴, right? And what was the capital? Capital would be Pratishthan. Pratishthan. Right? Yes. So the capitals of Mahajanpadas, they have also changed over a period of time. Even with regard to Magad also, you can just imagine. Sometimes it was Rajgriha, sometimes it was Patliputra. So yes, in different sources, you may find different capitals. So please be very, very careful about it. So yes. So it is 𝐴𝐨𝐵, right? This is how one sees it. All right. So yes, Peter Mundi, consider the following travelers. How many of them traveled during the reign of Mughal dynasty in India? So let us see. Peter Mundi, yes, during the reign of Shah Jahan. During the reign of Shah Jahan, right? And then you have Al-Masudi. And then you have Al-Masudi. So Al-Masudi visited Masudi visited the Gurjar Pratiharas. Why? Because clearly there is this one reference that he gives, Al-Juzr, that he calls to the rulers of Gurjar Pratiharas, right? So clearly, again, not during Mughal period. And Ibn Battuta, yes, clearly he was also deputed as the Qazi by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So yes, during the Tughlaqs. Right? And then you have Duarte Barbosa and Domingo Pace. These two plus Domingo Pace. क्या इनके बारे में खासियत है? That they visited during the reign of Krishnadev Rai. They visited during the reign of Krishnadev Rai in Vijayanagar Empire. So it is actually only one. It is only one, which is Peter Mundi, which is the correct option here, right? So yes, this is precisely how one has seen through it. Believe you me when I say this, that ancient Indian history, or for that matter medieval Indian history, or for that matter Indian art and culture, they are the themes, if you are able to kind of do the themes of these subjects, and especially adhering to the PYQs को रटना नहीं है, but जो भी ऑप्शन आते हैं PYQs में, उन ऑप्शंस के बारे में भी थोड़ी बहुत नॉलेज रख लीजिए. Just prepare your own notes. You have plenty of time even now. And trust me when I say this, art and culture, it is an easy hanging fruit. Okay, low hanging fruit. If you are able to kind of circumvent the themes with regard to the different options that are given in PYQs, you will be able to fare really well with respect to the questions that are asked in Indian art and culture as well. There is a lot of smoke and mirrors as well with regard to Indian art and culture, or for that matter ancient and in medieval Indian history. कि कितना भी पढ़ ले आता कहीं और से ही है, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. Friends who tell you that these kind of things, they don't really want a good rank for you. Stay away from them. Just focus on the kind of themes that have been covered in the PYQs, and you should be good about ancient and medieval Indian history along with Indian art and culture, and in this case, as we saw, with respect to modern Indian history as well. Thank you very much. Wishing you all the very best. Please take good care of yourselves.
Okay, so let us see economic questions of the simulator test. Question number 28. With reference to geopolitical disruptions in the Red Sea region, consider the following statements. Okay, look at the statement 1. It has negatively impacted India's maritime trade. Geopolitical disruptions in the Red Sea region, that has negatively impacted India's maritime trade. Red Sea is located, you can say, just look at the map, it is in the tri-junction of Indian Ocean, Suez Canal and Mediterranean Sea. And the Houthi rebel attacks on the ships, that has been the cause of concern lately. So thus, first statement is correct. And the second statement is, it has pushed up logistics cost for Indian exporters because of the same problem, Houthi rebel attacks. The logistic cost has increased, and that you can say is also the factor responsible for negatively impacting India's maritime trade. So both statements are correct, and the second statement also explains the first. So that is why the answer A would be the correct answer. Question number 32. With reference to the fiscal policy in Indian economy, consider the following statements. Statement 1. In India, fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP has steadily decreasing since the financial year 2020-21. Yes. So if you just look at the data of fiscal deficit as percentage of GDP, that touched around 9.2% in the wake of pandemic, but has consistently decreased after that time. Okay, so it was 5.6% in the last fiscal year, and the revised estimates of the current fiscal suggest it to be 4.8%. So that has been steadily decreasing. The second statement, that central government's capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP has been steadily declining since the financial year 2021. That means from the time of pandemic. This statement is incorrect. Okay, so you have seen the government constantly trying to increase the capital expenditure to increase the productivity, the level of infrastructure development, and that is why you see that there is uptick from 2.1, 2.2% to 2.5% in the current fiscal year. Okay, if you consider the last fiscal year, it was around 2.7%. So there has been increase in the capital expenditure and not the decline, and that is why second statement is incorrect. Now consider this is question number 33. With reference to digital payment index, consider the following statements. Digital payment index, something that was introduced by RBI in the year 2018. Just look at the statements. It was launched by National Payment Corporation of India. That makes it incorrect because that was from RBI. That was by RBI. The base year for DPI is 2015. The base year is not 2015, base year is 2018, month of March. And that makes the second statement also incorrect. Now the third statement, payment enablers, payment performance, and consumer centricity are some of the parameters of this index. Now just look at the index here, and you will have 5 metrics. 3 are mentioned here, and along with that there are 2 other: payment infrastructure from supply side, payment infrastructure from demand side. These are the 2 additional metrics. In total 5 metrics are there, and that is why the 3 mentioned metrics are parameters are actually the correct parameters. So that makes the third statement correct. So now you can choose the option B, that is 3 only is the correct answer. Question number 42. In the context of Indian economy, consider the following statements. Between the financial year 2000 and 2024, the average tariff rates on dutiable items in India have decreased by more than half. So here the statement is covering the period last 24 years. Okay, 2000 to 2024. And here it is talking about average tariff rates. So since 1991, when we adopted LPG reforms, the approach of India has been to to increase its share in global trade. Okay, and for that, it has gone to meet various kinds of requirements by WTO. Okay, in timely manner, and that included the reduction in the tariff rates. Okay, so the statement, that is the average tariff rates on dutiable items have decreased by more than half, that is correct, because if you see the decrease that happened from around 50% to around 18%. Okay, so it has decreased more than half, from around 49% to 18%, around 18%. So that is a decrease or decline by more than half, and that makes the first statement correct. Now look at the second statement. Higher tariff policy by a country always hurts trade competitiveness in the short run. Now, this is a problematic statement. Why? Because higher tariff policy may not hurt the trade competitiveness. Rather, higher tariff policy have been adopted by countries around the globe to protect their domestic industry, so that their domestic industry could become more competitive with the global one. Okay, so yes, higher tariff policy implemented in timely manner, in a strategic manner, may increase the competitiveness, and that makes the statement incorrect, as it says that it always hurts the trade competitiveness. So statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is incorrect, and that is why the answer would be C. Consider the following statements about 𝐅𝐨𝐵 𝐕𝐢𝐝 𝐂𝐨𝐻 recently launched by the government of India. Okay, so this is actually a scheme-based question based on facts. So consider the first statement, that the scheme aims to develop enabling infrastructure and enhance socioeconomic conditions in the villages where the population of scheduled tribe is more than 1,000. Now, this is regarding one detailed information of the scheme, and that is incorrect, because the criteria of 1,000 is actually factually incorrect. Okay, it is 500, or it may be more than 50%, or it can also be 50 in case of aspirational district program. So that makes the first statement incorrect. The second is, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs will serve as the nodal agency for the scheme. That makes the statement correct. One of the key initiatives under the scheme is promotion of tribal homestays to boost local tourism and enhance livelihood. So स्वदेश दर्शनी scheme वगैरह के साथ इसको connect किया गया है, integrate किया गया है. That makes the third statement also correct. So first statement incorrect, second correct, third correct. And that is why second and third only, that is the C option, is the correct option. _49. With reference to the objectives of 𝐷𝐿, National Framework for Early Childhood Stimulation and Early Childhood Care and Education, EECE, in India, which of the following statements are correct? Now, these are actually the two initiatives of Ministry of Women and Child Development. Let's look at the statement to find out which one is correct or incorrect. First, 𝐷𝐿 is designed to provide early stimulation for children from birth to 3 years, whereas ECCE aims to prepare children aged 3 to 6 years for the formal schooling. Yes, that is the division between these two initiatives, 0 to 3 and 3 to 6. That makes the first statement correct. The second is, 𝐷𝐿 is primarily implemented through Anganwadi centers, while ECCE is delivered primarily through primary schools. No, that is incorrect, because 0 to 6 years, you see that Anganwadi centers are actually the main centers for providing any kind of services to children, and ECCE programs are not actually delivered by primary schools. They are implemented mainly by Anganwadi centers. So that makes the second statement incorrect. Both, third statement, just look at it. Both 𝐷𝐿 and ECCE frameworks are aligned with the national education policy, very much aligned with the national education policy. That is the correct statement, as both initiatives are emphasizing on the importance of early childhood, okay, early childhood care, the proper development. So that has been envisaged in the national education policy also. So that makes the third statement correct. So first is correct, second incorrect, and third is correct. That makes option B the correct option, 1 and 3 only. Okay, now look at the question number 50. With reference to recently launched PM eDrive scheme, consider the following statement. It aims to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles, develop essential charging infrastructure, and establish a robust EV manufacturing ecosystem across the country. That has been the major objective of PM eDrive. Okay, the correct statement. Second, the scheme provides incentives only to those EVs that are used exclusively for commercial purposes. Now, that does not make any sense, because this is for the larger adoption of EV vehicles. There is no reason why private owners would be excluded. Okay, so that is factually correct also, that private owners are also eligible for the scheme. Okay, so that is why first statement is correct, the second statement is incorrect. Third, the scheme has been launched by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. There is a catch here. It is not by New and Renewable Energy, it is by Ministry of Heavy Industry. Okay, so that also makes the third statement incorrect. A specific allocation of fund has been made for the deployment of e-ambulance under the scheme. That is one factually correct information, because this particular clause, or you can say this particular point, is actually added in the scheme, and that makes the fourth statement correct, because there is a specific allocation for the deployment of various types of EVs, okay, including ambulances. So first statement was correct, the second was incorrect, third was also incorrect, fourth was correct, and that is why 1 and 4 are the correct statements. Answer D is the correct answer. Option D is the correct answer. In economy, demographic dividend, very easy question. Demographic dividend, you know that it is the bulge in the working age population and the reduction in the number of dependents. So let's look at option A, large scale replacement of manual work with automation in the economy. No. That may be caused by the technological unemployment. The second is increase in the proportion of workers relative to non-workers in the population. Basically, that is demographic dividend, bulge in the working age population. Okay. So option B is the correct answer. You don't have to look at C and D. Very easy question. With reference to insurance sector in India, consider the following statements. Okay, again, a question which is based on the knowledge of insurance sector. Premiums paid for life insurance are exempted from GST. Premiums paid for life insurance are not exempted. Rather, they have been kept under the uppermost tax slab, that is 18% under GST. So not exempted. That makes this first statement incorrect. In India, the penetration of life insurance is more as compared to general insurance. That is one of the feature of insurance market in India, that it is basically life insurance penetration compared to general insurance. Okay, so that makes the second statement correct. The first is incorrect, the second is correct. In Union Budget 2025, the FDI limit in the insurance sector has been increased from 26 to 49%. No, the limit was actually 74%. What made news in the Union Budget 2025 is its increase to 100%. So the correct fact is that it has increased from 74 to 100%. That makes the third statement also incorrect. So only second statement is correct, and that is why the answer is B, option 2 only. Consider the following statements. Repair and maintenance of machinery. Just look at the question first. How many of the above activities are included under gross fixed capital formation? So gross fixed capital formation kya hai? It is all related to increase in the physical stock of capital, the fixed capital that increases the productivity, production, okay, creation of assets in the economy. So that is gross fixed capital formation. Repair and maintenance of a machinery and plant is going to increase the productivity. So maintenance charge is also considered as part of gross fixed capital formation, as it helps in enhancing the productivity. So that is the correct option, correct statement. Buying a fridge for household use. Buying a fridge or any consumer durable for household use is not an investment. Okay, it is a consumption at the private level, and it is not going to increase the productivity of the economy, and that is why it is incorrect. Leveling and fencing of agricultural land, that is the correct option, because leveling and fencing also increases the productivity. Okay, it also increases, you can see, the value of land, and that is why it is the correct option. Purchase of sugarcane for sugar production by a factory owner, that is also not correct, because here sugar cane for sugar production is actually a kind of intermediate consumption. Okay, so because it is intermediate consumption, it is not going to be counted as something which is directly enhancing the productivity in the economy. So first is correct, second is incorrect, third is correct, fourth is also incorrect. So how many of the above activities are included in GFCF? I would say only 2, and B thus becomes the answer. Question number 84. Consider the following statements. An Indian software company exporting IT services. Just look at the question first. How many of the above transactions are part of current account in India's balance of payment? So current account में क्या होता है? Merchandise, trade in merchandise, and then trade in invisibles. Within trade in invisibles, you include trade in services and current transfers. Okay, so this is what we know as current account. So Indian software company exporting IT services to a US-based client and receiving payments in dollars. That is a case of trade in invisibles, very much part of current account. An Indian student paying tuition fees to university in the United Kingdom, that again is part of the current account as it is trade in invisibles. An Indian company receives commercial loans from International Financial Corporation. That is a case of external commercial borrowings, which is part of capital account because it is related to asset or liability. In this case, it is a liability. So third is not part of current account, it is part of capital account. An Indian family receiving remittances from relative working abroad, that is something which is part of current transfer. So very much part of current account. 1, 2, and 4 are the correct options. How many of the transactions are current account? So there are 3, and that is why option C, that is only 3, is the correct answer. Look at question number 85. You have to match activity and the associated sector. Tata Steel's production and sale of steel alloys for the automotive industry. Associated sector, real sector. What we mean by real sector? The real sector is a sector whereby actual production and consumption takes place. Tata Steel's production and sale of steel will belong to a real sector because it is the actual production of sale and consumption of production of steel and consumption of steel. So very much part of a real sector. Okay, what is financial sector? Financial sector exists to support the transactions in the real sector. So financial sector includes financial institutions, okay, financial instruments. That is financial sector. Then the second statement, Ministry of Defense procurement of fighter jets from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. General government sector, very much part of general government sector because general government sector exists to deliver public services or to create economic assets for the public use. Okay, so health, education, defense, all that is part of general government sector, and that is why second is also a correct match. Third, Life Insurance Corporation of India's investment in the initial public offerings of a private sector company. Financial sector, that also is correct because what financial sector consists of is the financial institutions and the financial instruments delivering financial services. This kind of investment in initial public offer, which is actually one of the financial instrument, is very much a financial service, and that is why it is included in the financial sector. Okay, so it is a financial activity. All 3 pairs are correctly matched, and that is why option C is the correct answer. That is all 3. Now look at question number 87. With reference to the various instruments of financial market, consider the following pairs. So instrument को market से associate करना है. Government bond, money market. Now, what is the difference between money market and capital market? Because you have to differentiate between money market and capital market and associated instruments. Money market provides you working capital. Okay, so working capital कैसी होगी? कुछ ऐसे instruments के तहत जिसका maturity period short term का होगा, that is less than 1 year. While capital market, the word capital in economy is always related to change in the asset or liability. So capital market provides capital for the expansion of business, okay, creation of assets. So they are usually long-term instruments. having long-term maturity. So government bond belongs to capital market, not the money market. Okay? Commercial paper has the maturity period of maximum 1 year, and that is why it will belong to money market, not capital market. So both of these two, 1 and 2, are incorrectly matched. Participatory notes. Okay, so this is regarding the stocks or bonds, okay, issued by the intermediary for the investor who is not actually registered with SEBI. So they are backed by stocks or bonds. Again, something that belongs to capital market. So third is correct. Cash management bills. Again, this is a short-term instrument issued by RBI on the behalf of the government to meet, you can say, the requirement of the cash flow. Okay, so cash flow mismatch अगर होता है तो cash management bills RBI issue करती है. That is also short term. So in that sense, it was also a money market instrument. So first and second are incorrectly matched, while third and fourth are correctly matched. If the question is how many pairs are correctly matched, only 2 pairs are correctly matched, and that is why option B is the correct option. Question number 89. With reference to advanced pricing agreements frequently mentioned in the news, consider the following statements. Okay, even if it is not mentioned in the news, you cover that as part of your foundation class when you study about direct taxes. Okay, you deal with topics like GAR, double taxation avoidance agreement, okay, and many such topics whereby there is a discussion on advanced pricing agreements. Let's consider the statements here. These are agreements between taxpayer and tax authorities to determine transfer pricing methodologies for future cross-border transactions. Okay, that means the transactions that happen between two associated companies, and that is how it is defined. So it is correct. In India, APAs do not have a fixed validity period and can remain in force indefinitely based on the mutual agreement between the taxpayer and tax authority. No, they have a fixed validity period of up to 5 years. That is the fact. And that makes the second statement incorrect. Okay? So first is correct, the second is incorrect. Which of the following are correct? So I would say one only, and that makes option A the correct option. Consider the following statements regarding the derivatives, which are the financial instruments used in various markets for the trading and risk management. So what are the derivatives? Instruments used in the forward market. Why they are called derivatives? Because they derive their value from an underlying asset. So that is the basic thing. Now consider the first statement. They derive their value from an underlying asset. That is the very definition of derivatives, such as stocks, commodities, or currencies. Very much correct. Then they can only be traded on regulated exchanges and cannot be traded privately between two parties. No. So for example, you have various kinds of derivatives: forwards, futures, options, swaps. Among these four, if I consider, only futures are exchange traded. Standardized contracts, forwards do not require, forward contracts do not require any exchange. So they can happen, or a forward contract can be resorted to by private parties, and that is why the second statement is incorrect. Future contract is a type of derivative that provides the buyer the right but not the obligation to buy or sell an asset at a predetermined price. No, future contract does not provide the right. Actually, future contract ये नहीं करता है. This is the definition of options. Options provide right and not the obligation. And that is why the third statement is also incorrect. So I would say only one statement is correct, that is one only, and that is why option A is the correct option. Okay. Now, question number 100. If the Reserve Bank of India decides to tighten liquidity coverage ratio norms, which one of the following will be its likely implications? So, what is liquidity coverage? Liquidity coverage is nothing but the ratio of high high quality liquid assets of the bank divided by net cash flow that is happening within 30 days. Okay, so that is the definition of liquidity coverage ratio. If you consider the metric here, then it is all about bank being able to meet its short-term obligations of cash. So just consider the question again, that if it tightens LCR norms, then what will happen? So tightening LCR norms would mean that ratio is to be increased. That is why numerator is to be increased, and in the numerator you have high quality liquid assets. So the bank may require to maintain more high quality liquid assets, and that generally includes government securities that are also having low interest rate. And that is why higher liquidity coverage ratio, अगर cash flow को हम constant माने जो bank की तरफ से हो रहा है, if we consider cash flow constant, which is happening from the side of bank, then it has to necessarily increase the highly liquid assets at its disposal, which generally is government security. Okay, and you know that government security do not yield much interest. Now consider the statements. Which of the following is likely implication? So banks will experience an increase in short-term credit growth? No, that actually opposite might be the case. Okay, because banks have to maintain more of high liquid assets with them. Net interest margin for banks will reduce in the short term. Now, net interest margins will reduce. Okay, most likely is to reduce in the short term because the government securities, which now banks will be required to hold more because of the tightening of the LCR ratio, LCR, is going to give them lower returns. So net interest margin in that case, generally, you can say definitely will decrease. Okay, monetary policy transmission will become more effective. No, that is not connected with monetary policy transmission. The cost of borrowing for banks will decrease. Again, that is not connected at all. So option B is the correct option. If you consider option A, quite opposite would be the case. Okay, most likely. So B option is the answer here. Okay, so this was all about economic questions. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Simulator-0 test discussion by Forum IAS. I hope you found the test good enough, and of course now we are starting March with a bang, and now the pre-mode should be on. If not fully, at least good part of you should now prepare for prelims, right? So I'll be taking up the polity and international relation portion. Before starting with the discussion, you should know that what should be the sources. You have been studying standard books, all right, but one additional source, if you feel that you have done enough in other subjects also, I would suggest that you can refer to Mastering Indian Polity. If you have some pictorial memory, if you have some multiple revision of certain books, that is all right. But if you require some additional material, this will also be helpful in mains also. It has compilation of PYQs integrated within it, and it has certain provision from the constitution also, so you do not have to open a book parallelly, right? Then we have some additional facts and figures, curiosity boxes that will add value. All right, about international relation, I think any compilation would do. About the static portion, of course, you should be focused on the current affairs also. Right, let's start with the discussion. All right, the first question talks about Article 142. Article 142 specifically says that it is the enforcement of any decree or order. Yes, and it gives a special power, extraordinary power to the Supreme Court to pass any decree or order to do complete justice. Yes, that is the keyword that has been mentioned in the Constitution. It is open-ended also, and it has been under fire also at times that it is part of judicial overreach, etc. Yes, but judiciary has time and again utilized Article 142 as a tool for judicial review also, judicial activism also, and of course at times maybe judicial overreach. Now the last time, prominent time, we think Article 142 was utilized was in Chandigarh mayor polls. So who are very well versed with the current affairs, they would directly know the answer. Yes, but at the same time you should go through the other options as well, right? We know that there are different jurisdictions and powers of the Supreme Court, from original jurisdiction to writ jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, then revisory jurisdiction, advisory jurisdiction, then extraordinary jurisdictions also related to interpretation under Article 145. Then we have rule making under Article 145, interpretation under 147, rule making under 145, court of record under 129, transfer of judges 139A also. I don't want it to write down everything, just a revision. Yes, let's have a look at these statements one by one. First one talks about Supreme Court providing an opinion to the president. When we are talking about opinion, that means it is an advisory jurisdiction. That is under Article 143. This is not extraordinary power under 142. Specific, yes. Supreme Court transfers a case. When we are talking about transferring of cases, we know that this was provided by Article 139A, which was added by 42nd Amendment and was also amended by 44th. Yes, it is talking about extraordinary jurisdiction, not under the 142. So this again is incorrect. Supreme Court decides to re-examine. When it is talking about re-examining, that is revisory jurisdiction. Yes, under Article 137 specifically. It can revise its own judgments also to prevent any miscarriage of justice. Yes, we have review petition also, you have curative petition also, all that you have studied. All right, so this is also incorrect. We have D as our right answer. Yes, moving forward. Then specific question. People also are at times confused between 5th schedule and 6th schedule, quite overlapping provisions also. But one thing is clear, that where are they applicable? The first provision, if you read the bare act, first provision of the 5th schedule itself says that it is not applicable to so and so states. And what are those states? The states which are applicable in case of 6th schedule. What are those states? Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. 1, 2, 3, 4. Specifically written in the constitution. Yes, so these are the other two. And we are talking about not include in these states. So we know that A would be the right answer here. Specific question. Okay, then we are talking about events and who was the prime minister at that time. So at times UPSC has asked such questions also in case of subjects like polity and also in international relation. Yes, we have also included some portions of such questions in IR also. Goa was liberated from Portuguese rule. That was in 1961 specifically. No confusion. There was the prime minister that time was Mr. Nehru, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. No confusion about it. Yes. Mizoram Peace Accord. It was signed in just before the statehood was given, 1986. It talked about more autonomy and ultimately it was given the statehood in 87. And the leader of MNF, Mizo National Front, Lal Denga, he became the chief minister after the full statehood. And anyway, we are aware that 1986, Miss Indira Gandhi was no more. Yes, so it was that time the prime minister was Rajiv Gandhi. So this is a incorrect. Straightforward. UPSPA, no need to debate about it. 1958, again, we had Mr. Nehru that time. So this is again incorrect. Mandal Commission set up in it was talking about setting up 79 under the prime ministership of Morarji Desai, and it gave it reports in 1980. Yes, make sure that you are curious about these things also, that what is MNF, when was this signed is all right, but what were the provision, when was statehood given, etc. Then Mandal Commission was there, everyone is aware, but who was Mr. Mandal? Yes, he was the former chief minister of Bihar. It gave its report in 1980, ultimately created lot of political mobilization. All right, 1 and 4 are correct, only 2. B would be the right answer here. Yes, no doubts. Then we are talking about the President of India is bound to give assent. Yes, the question is here. Okay, which of the above was part of the original constitution, it is asking. Yes, enacted on this date and came into force on this date. When we are talking about the president bound to give constitutional, bill, the assent that was given by 24th Constitutional Amendment, no doubt about it. Since then, he has been obliged. It has been mandatory for him to give assent. He cannot return, he cannot reject. So this was not the part of original constitution. Then total number of ministers, there was a cap put by the 91st Amendment, Article 75 1A, and 91st Constitutional Amendment put a cap. Yes, so this was also, if put by a constitutional amendment, naturally it was not part of the constitution. All right. President of India specify the tribes and tribal communities which shall be deemed to be STs. When we are talking about designating certain tribes of SCs or STs, that has been provided in the constitution, original constitution also. STs under Article 342. Specifically, clause 1 talks about that president can notify certain tribes, races, etc. as STs. Clause 2 talks about that parliament can edit that list also. Yes, do read more about it. Yes, it was part of the original constitution. Same person can be appointed as governor to two or more states. Again, this was added after 7th Constitutional Amendment in 1956. Yes, state reorganization happened. So it was a flexibility which was provided under Article 153. All right. So this was added later. Yes, not part of the original constitution. Only 3 is the part of the original constitution. Yes. So B would be the right answer here. No doubts about it. Then we are talking about the position of powers of governor. Yes, let's have a look at these statements one by one. Promulgate. It is talking about the discretionary power. We know that the discretionary power of a governor is anyway more than the discretionary power of the president. The discretionary power itself is discretion. Okay, power to promulgate an ordinance. We know that this is not a discretionary power. Rather, it is based on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So this is not a discretionary power specifically. And it is also talking about provided by the Constitution. No situational discretion, but provided by the Constitution. Be very specific here. Power to dismiss COM to prove when it fails to prove the confidence in the legislature. So this is a discretion, yes, but it is a situational discretion. Yes, not provided by the Constitution, not provided explicitly in the Constitution. So this again is incorrect. This is why it is important to refer to the Bayer Act time and again. It will make your life easier in specific these type of questions. All right. Then we are talking about power to commute. Yes, commuting a sentence, etc. Again, on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Not his duty, not the president duty even. So again, this is not the correct option. Power to reserve a bill. We know that under Article 200 and under Article 201, governor has been empowered to reserve any state bill for the consideration of the president, and he has been mandated under Article 200 that if at all there is a change in the jurisdiction of a high court, he must do that. That is the only case where he is obliged to do that. It is mandatory for him to reserve that bill for the reconsideration of the president. Otherwise, he has his discretion also. So D is the right option. This is the discretion provided by the Constitution itself. Specific? All right, D is the right answer. Moving ahead, question 6. Right to be free from the adverse effect of climate change. We know that this was recently pronounced by the Supreme Court as a part of the fundamental right under Ranjit Singh case. M. Ranjit Singh case 2024. Specific, these type of question, right to privacy, has been repeated couple of times, and because it violates the rights under Article 14 and 21, right to equality and right to live a dignified life. Yes, I hope none of you have got it incorrect. Current affairs also, and quite important also. Of course, here curiosity comes in that who is this person, Mr. Ranjit Singh? Yes, that is your homework. Do that. Do read about this individual, quite prominent civil servant. He was also instrumental in shaping various environmental laws, Environment Protection Act, etc. He came from a nobility, blood, background, etc. Do read about him. All right, C is the right answer here. Talking about interstate council again, constitutional body or non-constitutional body, statutory body or executive body. Yes, all these questions should pop up in your mind, right? This was established by the president and he is the one who will be ensuring that what should be the composition, what should be the service conditions, etc. Yes, let's have a look at the statements one by one. When we are talking about the ex officio chairman for ISC, that is the prime minister, not the home minister. At times it appears, yes, home minister is chairman of cert council, that is the zonal council, not interstate council. Yes, so first one is incorrect. Chief ministers of all the states are members. You know the composition again. That is also correct. It is an apex body for the adjudication of disputes relating to water. It has nothing to do with water. It is not an educatory body, rather a body for having deliberation, discussion, and a tool for cooperative federalism also. Yes, but not an adjudication body. For that, we have Interstate River Water Disputes Act. So this again is incorrect. The governor, when there is a president rule in any state, the governor shall be representing that state. That again is part of the composition. 2 and 4 are correct. C should be the right answer. Yes, all this again, you might have not have read this, maybe not part of your version of the static book. So just make sure that you are curious what happens in this case, that case. Yes, for example, presidential election, electoral college. Yes, is Jammu Kashmir Assembly, now they are elected also. Now we have MLAs in Jammu Kashmir. Now are they eligible to vote in presidential election or not, whenever they are going to happen next? Is it part of the article where it is explicitly mentioned that which UTs can participate? Yes, so make sure that you are curious and try to find a solution for these type of questions. Doctrine of constructive possession. So possession is all right. Constructive possession means when you have knowledge about something. For example, you are traveling and you are traveling with something illegal, maybe the alcohol in a dry state, maybe drugs, etc. And you are aware. So that is assumed that you are aware if it is found in your car. Yes, for example, you are living in a rented house. Your landlord is not living, but he is not in physical possession, but it is his ownership. Yes, so physical possession is not necessary. Yes, that is doctrine of constructive possession. It is a possession of an item by an individual, even if there is no physical possession, right? You have money in bank, you do not have it in physical format, physical, or it is not tangible right now, but you have it on your behalf. That is your money. You may not have physical possession, but that is your money. B is the right answer here. Do read more about this. Yes, after independence, law commission again. We have time and again in various cases seen the recommendation of law commissions. Yes, there should be a legislative council or not. What should be the let's say the status for UCC, what should be the simultaneous election status, etc. What are the recommendations it has done over the years? It has been in place before the independence. We have known about the Macaulay Commission, that was a law commission which suggested various IPC, etc. Yes. Now after independence in 1955, we started with our own law commissions. Is it statutory or not? That is your job to look. Yes. Recently, we established the 23rd Law Commission of India in December 2024. See who was the first chairman of Law Commission of India, who was heading it, who is heading it now, etc. Yes, be curious about these things. Straightforward question, current affairs. Yes, straight pointer. A is the right answer. Now we are talking about vice president. Yes, various dimension of the vice president. Second in the table of presidents. Okay, when we are talking about electoral college, we know that the electoral college of vice president is different from that of the president. In president, we have the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, only the elected members plus the elected members of the state legislative assembly. Here we have both elected and nominated members of the parliament. No state is involved, so this is correct. Vice president can only be removed. When we are talking about removal, we know that the constitution says that in Rajya Sabha, the resolution must be passed by the by majority of all the then members. All the then members means effective majority. Yes, that is done for speaker also. So it is not special majority. It is the effective majority. This is incorrect. That should be agreed upon by the Lok Sabha. Act as the president in the event of vacancy. Now, when we are talking about vacancy, it can be due to resignation, it can be due to death, etc. Yes. Now, whenever there is a vacancy, the vice president under Article 65 has been empowered to act as the president. He becomes the acting president. And when you read it with Article 62, it provides a timeline for 6 months. Whenever there is a vacancy, it should be filled within 6 months. So acting president is there for 6 months. Yes, so this statement is again correct. Now the last statement says, unlike the vice president of USA, Indian vice president does not succeed when the office of president falls vacant. Yes, this is again not succeed. This is also correct. So we have 1, 3 and 4 as correct. C would be the right answer here. Yes. Over there, what happens? For example, when there was a lot of talk in USA, when Joe Biden was there that he's quite ill, etc. Then Kamala Harris might take over the presidency and she'll be taking over only for the remaining term. That is the criteria in US. But here, he does not become the president, but he acts as the president. He might take part in the election later, within the 6 months. He might become the president later. But when he is not elected, he only acts as the president. Right? Simple. C is the right answer. Moving forward, when we are talking about, there are different bodies, constitutional bodies itself. And it is looking for that they are barred to hold any office under the government. That means they cannot be appointed any further under the state. And it is saying that it has been done by the constitution, where the constitution is barring explicitly. Yes, let's have a look at the offices one by one. When we are talking about UPSC, it has been barred for further employment under the state under Article 319 explicitly. It has been prohibition. The title itself says the prohibition on further employment. There are certain criteria for members, etc. But chairman can no more be appointed. When we are talking about CEC, it has nothing to do with the constitution in case of no further employment. Yes, so it has no explicit barring. Then CAG again under Article 148. If you read these articles explicitly, it will be easier for you to attempt such questions. Yes, because by understanding it appears at time that, okay, I am getting this, I am understanding this. But when it comes to objectively go for true and false, objectively go for MCQs, it becomes challenging for us. So make sure that you are referring to the articles. If not done yet, make sure that in the first revision itself, you should be doing that. 1 and 3, B would be the right answer here. Then we are talking about lapsing of bill, quite a confusing topic at times for people, because people may not simplify it for themselves. Yes, it is not just about reading points and retaining it and maybe getting it correct in couple of tests and getting it wrong in couple of tests or exam itself. So make sure that you are simplifying it for yourself. When we are talking about lapsing of bills, it has been provided for Parliament under 107 and for state legislature under 196. Yes. Adding 89. Yes. All right. So when we are talking about state legislative assembly, there is legislative council and there is legislative assembly. One straightforward rule is, whenever it is directly associated with assembly and the assembly dissolves, then it lapses. When it has not touched upon it, then it does not lapse. So whenever it is, let me change the color. Okay, whenever it is in the house itself, it will lapse. Whenever it is passed and goes to legislative council, it will again lapse. Whenever legislative council is passed and it is pending in legislative assembly, it will lapse. It will not lapse in the case it is with legislative council and it has not been passed but pending in legislative council itself. Yes. So again, this will continue, not lapse. Yes, when it is lying with the president, if at all governor has sent it for reconsideration, or lying with the governor, then it will not lapse. Yes, so these are certain dimensions. You should be simplifying it for yourself. Every time remember this diagram, or maybe diagram in your own format, but simplify it. Do not get confused. Do not try to retain extended pictorial memory of text. Yes, let's have a look at these statements. The first statement says, and we are looking for lapsing. A bill pending in legislative assembly, it will lapse. Yes, when it is dissolved. A bill reserved by the governor for president consideration, it will not lapse. Clarity. A bill passed by legislative assembly but pending in legislative council, it will again lapse. So this will again lapse. A bill pending in council and not yet passed by the state assembly, again it will not lapse. Yes. So we have, again, just a second, a bill pending in state legislative council and not yet passed by the state legislative assembly. Just a second. A bill pending in state legislative council and not yet passed by the assembly. Again, this is the case, it will not lapse. So at times it becomes confusing. Make sure that you are simplifying it and retaining it. 1 and 3, C would be the right answer. Yes, simplify it for extended period of retention. All right, then we are talking about National Security Guard. When we are talking about National Security Guard, we know that this body was established in the aftermath of the assassination of Miss Indira Gandhi. Yes, it was a statutory, or it is a statutory body, National Security Guard Act. Yes, and the objective was to counter terrorism and prevent or anti-hijacking. That was the major objective. Yes, it was in news recently because NSG was taken away from the security of the private citizens, of the VIPs, etc. Yes. Okay, it was established under UAPA. No, this is incorrect. Part of CAPF, again, this is absolutely correct. It is part of CAPF. I would like you to go ahead and read about CAPF, not just a Wikipedia page, but maybe some extended, maybe 1-2 page write-up about different organizations, different institutions under it, and how do they function, under which administrative control they are in, etc. When were they established, what were the objectives, etc. All right. It is under administrative control of MHA, not Ministry of Defense. So we have only 2 as correct. Okay, we have 2 more options. All personnel in NSG are drawn exclusively from 3 armed forces. There are 2 groups, Special Action Group and Special Ranger Group. Action Group solely drawn from the army, and Ranger Group has combination of personnel from CAPF plus police. So it has nothing to do exclusively from armed forces. So this is again incorrect. This is also incorrect. First one is also incorrect. 5th, the government has recently ordered to withdraw NSG from VIP security, and they have put in CRPF now. Yes, and so that what was the objective? To ensure that they are focusing on their primary objective, that is to prevent terrorism and anti-hijacking. 2 and 5, C would be the right answer here. Yes, okay. Going ahead, talking about CAG. Yes, constitutional body under Article 148 and one of the most important offices under the Constitution. Yes, let's have a look at these 4 statements. Appointed by the President under warrant, under his hand and seal. Absolutely correct. So appointing by the President and appointing by the President by a warrant under his hand and seal. What is the difference? First of all, the biggest and simplest difference is explicitly written in the Constitution. Go and search what are the officers which need this warrant under his hand and seal. Not all officers are appointed by the President by a warrant under his hand and seal. Yes, that means they cannot provide for another person or provide or empower another person to appoint an individual on their behalf. Yes, this can only be done by the President if there is a warrant under his hand and seal, right? So this This is a true statement. Before entering office, CAG is required to take an oath as prescribed in the third schedule. Again, if you have read the third schedule specifically, you would know what offices are there. And I would want you, that is again your homework, see what type of oaths are there. What types of oaths are there beyond third schedule in the main text of the constitution? For example, the oath of the president is not in third schedule, but in the main text, oath of vice president, oath of the governor. Yes, third schedule talk about other offices like the office of MP, the candidates, the CAG, the judges, yes, ministers, oath of secrecy, etc. So all this is mentioned or not, that is your homework. Do read about third schedule. Okay, explicitly given in the third schedule, yes, he should be taking the oath. So 1 and 2 are correct. Third statement, responsible for compiling and maintaining accounts of central government. This was true to a certain extent till 1976, when an amendment was brought in and CAG was given the sole responsibility of auditing and the accounting was taken away from him. So this is no more true. Yes, 1 and 2 are correct. Fourth is administrative expense is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India. Yes, absolutely correct. Where is it given? In the annual financial statement, Article 112, which talks about the expenditure that is charged. But that is not enough. There are offices which are not mentioned but are charged. For example, the UPSC is not mentioned under Article 112 but is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India under Article 322, if you see. But CAG has been explicitly mentioned here also, but in his core Article 148 also. All right, so we have 1, 2 and 4 as correct. D would be the right answer here. Yes, moving forward, talking about FRBM Act of 2003. The objective of this act was to give certain targets to center and state to keep the fiscal deficit within particular limit, etc. But was also to ensure that with annual financial statement, that is the budget, we ensure that there is transparency in the fiscal management of the country. Yes, for that, it was ensured that we are providing certain statements, laying down certain statement in front of the house, that is the miniature of the nation, for scrutiny, that what are the objectives also, what has been achieved, etc. Yes, so all 4 statements are laid down in the parliament with the budget under this act. Now, what are these statements? When we are talking about medium term fiscal policy statement, that talks about medium term means forthcoming years, maybe 2-3 years. It talks about the targets, how to achieve those targets has been discussed in medium term expenditure, how you will be spending. Yes, so that is the strategic roadmap. When we are talking about fiscal policy, this is not about medium term or long term, etc. It is talking about policy statement right now, that what are your policies and what are your priorities, how are you spending. Yes, you should be laying down that in front of the parliament. Macroeconomic framework statement, that means what are your macroeconomic indicators, key performance indicators, macroeconomic indicators, like how are you doing in GDP, GVA, how are you doing in balance of payment, etc. You should be laying down that in front of the nation. Yes, so these are 4 statements which come with the budget. Yes, you would have followed it. Have a look at present statements. Okay, D is the right answer. Moving forward, 23rd question. Now, we know that straightforward question, Parliamentary Committee on Official Language. It was not part of the constitution but was set up under the OLA Act. Yes, Official Language Act of 1963. Under section 4, it provided that there will be a parliamentary committee on official language, which will be reviewing the progress. So B is the straightforward answer. 8th schedule, again, factual question. We know that there were certain languages which were later added by various amendments under 8th schedule. 21st amendment added certain, then 71st also added certain, but it is asking about the 92nd amendment. Yes, we know that adding these, etc., what happened. So, straightforward question, you can remember DBMS, those are coming from IT, they know what database management system is. So, this is the short form of the languages which was added by the 92nd amendment. That is Dogri, Bodo, Maithili and Santhali. Yes. So not Sindhi but Dogri, not Konkani but Maithili, not Rajasthani. Rajasthani is still not the part, right? 2 and 4 are correct. C would be the right answer. Do read more about it. Is English a part of it or not? Where are these language when we are talking about, let's say Dogri, where is it spoken? Santhali, where is it spoken? Why it has been part here, etc. Do read about other languages which are classical languages. What is the qualification? Recently there has been changes also, right? Do read about it. Talking about ordinances again, Article 123 for Union, the Parliament. Okay, now in which of these cases the President can promulgate ordinance? So it is an extraordinary power which has been vested in the executive. That legislative, it is a legislative power to make a law on the subjects under which the Parliament have the power to make a law. Yes, and this is a temporary provision which is provided for certain 6 weeks only, and it will lapse if not whenever the Parliament, whenever the houses reassemble. If they do not approve it, it lapses. Yes, so they might have to, if at all, go ahead for repromulgation, etc. So what are the dimensions it can promulgate? The President can promulgate ordinances. The first one is, there is no need, because we know that it was promulgated once, I think around a decade back, 1615, wherein this particular act was by the Supreme Court. Certain restrictions were put, but due to political reasons and also due to the atrocities, etc., and of course there were protests from these communities to ensure that whatever the act, whatever the provisions, whatever the punishment, harsh punishment was there, that should be reinstated, and that was done again through ordinance and later approved by the Parliament. So ordinance can be and has been utilized to amend this. Then a bill related to withdrawal of money out of Consolidated Fund of India. When we are talking about withdrawal, what is the difference between withdrawal and appropriation? Appropriation is setting aside a particular amount with a purpose. Withdrawal is withdrawing that. Yes. So when we are talking about withdrawing, then we know that this is under the definition of money bill under Article 110. Yes. And money bill can also be passed as an ordinance. And of course, as written in the article itself, the President must be satisfied that there are certain circumstances which require his immediate intervention or immediate action. Yes, due to which he has to pass this as an ordinance, right? And of course, the Parliament, any house of the Parliament must not be in session to be eligible to do this, right? So money bill can, again, withdrawal of money can be done, and this has been done also in case of states. Travancore, Cochin in 1956 was done through a appropriation act, money bill itself. All right, constitutional amendment bill. There are two issues. Constitutional amendment bill 1. Secondly, it is related to the changes of the qualification procedure for the appointment of Supreme Court judges. For that, you require the state ratification also. Yes, federal provision needs state ratification. So this is beyond the capacity of the Parliament again. This cannot be done by the President through an ordinance. Retrospectively implement the taxation law within the powers of the Parliament. 1, 3 and 4. C would be the right answer here. Yes. All right, moving forward. Then we are talking about restrictions. And the question is violation of right to equality. Which of the above reflects the violation of right to equality? Let's have a look at one by one. Restriction on access to public restaurant on the basis of caste of an individual. If you read Article 15, Clause 2A, it specifically raised that there should not be any restriction if the individual wants to access shops, public restaurants, hotels, places of entertainment, explicitly written in the Constitution. So this is definitely a violation of right to equality. Curtailing movements of an individual. When we are talking about curtailing movements, it is related to right to freedom, specifically right to freedom. Interest of general public, it is again maybe not the even violation of right to freedom, because 19(5) talks about reasonable restrictions. That includes, there can be restriction related in the for the interest of the general public. Secondly, to protect the interest of the STs also. Yes. So, but nowhere related to right to equality. So this is Incorrect. Persecution of a person for same offense. Again, Article 20, part of right to freedom, not part of right to equality. This is again incorrect. Then acceptance of title by the citizen from any foreign state. That is again a violation under Article 18. And 14 to 18 is right to equality. Straightforward. Ineligibility of an individual for an office under state on the grounds of place of residence. Again, provided explicitly in the Constitution, Article 16. Yes, Clause 3. There can be an exception put across 145. B would be the right answer here. Yes, be curious, try to have some research. And of course, if you have attended this test, seriously or non-seriously, make sure that you are gaining out of it. You have spent 2 hours attempting it. Make sure you are spending more than 2 hours. Whatever is being discussed or whatever is present in the solution sheet, whatever research you want to do, it should add value to your preparation. And do not give test if you are not preparing to go for test analysis. Yes, test analysis is the key. So B is the right answer here. Then we are talking about quorum. Yes, we know that under Article 100, the presiding officer must ensure that there is quorum, that is 1/10 of the members must be present. So then only there can be a sitting. Otherwise, it is the duty under Article 100, it is the duty of the presiding officer, speaker or chairman, to ensure that the house is adjourned if there is no quorum or suspended. Yes, quorum is not 1/5 but 1/10. Specifically incorrect. In case of joint sitting, quorum resides in 1/10 to the combined strength of both houses. Where is it written? Is it written in Article 100? Is it written in Article 108, which talks about joint sitting? Rather, it was provided by rules of procedure and conduct of business. Yes, so it was extended to joint sitting also. So this is correct. It is mandatory for the presiding officer to suspend the sitting if there is, until there is quorum. Yes, again, this is also correct. As I just talked about, Article 100 specifically given. Rules regarding quorum are not applicable to committees of the parliament. This is problematic. Not applicable. Again, this was extended through rules of procedure and conduct of business. This was expanded to the committees also, right? But here the catch is the quorum is not 1/10 but 1/3. Yes, if there are 10 members and 1/10 should be present, that means only one member should be attending the parliamentary committee. That is not required. That is changed to 1/3. So this is incorrect. It is applicable also. 1, 2 and 3 are correct. A would be the right answer here. Yes. Then we are talking about parliamentary secretariat. Yes. Again, under Article 98, Clause 1 specifically talks about that each house should have a secretarial staff, and that can be common also. Yes, each house should have it. Secondly, it is the duty of the parliament. It is on to parliament to regulate that staff, their recruitment, their condition of service, etc., salary and allowances. Yes, let's have a look. Presiding officer is empowered to regulate the recruitment. Rather, the parliament itself regulates it. Secretary General appointed by the president. It is appointed by the presiding officer. So this is again incorrect. Salaries and allowances of secretarial staff are charged upon Consolidated Fund of India. That is not charged, not written anywhere, but are part of the budget approved and voted by the parliament. So none of the statement is correct. Make sure that it is looking for correct or incorrect. Yes, so D is the right answer here. Then we are talking about BRICS. We know that a lot of expansion has happened in BRICS, and that is the reason it has become a point of discussion after the presidential election in US. Yes, he was declaring that Spain is also part of BRICS incorrectly. Yes, we know the history of BRICS and we are looking for members. In 2006, it was established as BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India and China. Then in 2010-11, it was expanded to South Africa also, and it became BRICS. Yes, Later in 2023, it was proposed that several countries, including Argentina, would be joining it. Go map-wise: Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, all would be joining. But Argentina declined and the other 5 joined in start of 2024. Yes. Then in 2025, couple of weeks back, month back, Indonesia also joined. Yes, so now we have 11 members total. So we have not Argentina but Egypt, not Turkey but Ethiopia, and not Vietnam. So we have 2 and 4 is correct. A would be the right answer here. Do have a look at what are the objectives, historical, and what are different initiatives by it. That will add, and mapping with mapping, you are done with IR. Yes, moving ahead. Country and regions. This was a type of question asked by UPSC earlier, couple of years back. Yes. Loss of mineral-rich territories to rebel group. This has been happening in Democratic Republic of Congo, not in Burkina Faso. It is a little technical to remember, but of course, if you have been referring, if you have been checking the maps to retain it for extended period, you should be able to answer such questions. Then declaration of state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, that has been done. Yes. And it is, the reason has been due to increase in the criminal activity. Then CryptoGate, again, we have seen in the newspaper regularly, CryptoGate has been related to Argentina. Yes, meme coin corruption scandal, yes. Okay, 2, 3 and 2 and 3 are correct. A would be the right. No. B would be the right answer. Yes. Then we are talking about Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. We know that recently, when the G20 summit happened, we know that we hosted the 2023 summit. In 2024, it was hosted by Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, 19th summit. So this institution or this body was established with the objective of ensuring that we are eliminating poverty and hunger and malnutrition, and the target has been in sync with the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Yes. And it works on the collaboration perspective. It has members from the government, it has members from the private sector, it has members from the civil society, it has members from the international organizations also. Yes. It was launched on the plenary of FAO, no. And India has been members, and its membership is not limited to G20 only. It has been open to all. It has, I think, many members have recently joined also. Aim to create world free of hunger 2030, yes. And it has been open to non-sovereign nations. Bodies like EU, AU, African Union, European Union, they have also joined in. So we have 2, 3 and 4 as correct. Just a second. Let me confirm this. Question number is 39. Okay, this is a stupid error. Make sure that you are not making stupid errors. Again, only the sovereign, not only, but other members, as I discussed, EU and AU also joined. So this is incorrect. We have 2 and 3 as correct. Yes, make sure that you are also not in a hurry. Take a pause whenever you are marking the answers and see if there has been an error you have made. Luckily, there was no option which was talking about 2, 3, 4. Otherwise, we would have moved ahead and it becomes problem. Negative marking for me. Yes? Okay. C option. We are talking about Philadelphia corridor. Quite a lot in news for past couple of years now. We know that it is between the Gaza Strip of Palestine and the Egypt. Yes, this is the Philadelphia corridor. Yes. Why it has been in news? Because this is the network of tunnels, or a maze of tunnel has been found between Egypt and Gaza, the Palestine area. Yes, they have been, Hamas has been utilizing it for infiltration, for supplying weapons, drugs, etc. Then it also hosts the Rafah border, which we have been talking about. It is not the full Rafah border, but this point is known as the Rafah border. Yes. So we have narrow strip between Palestine and Egypt. B is the right answer here. Then we are talking about drug trafficking region and associated countries. Triple frontier area. If you have been reading current affairs, you will be able to identify these terms also. If you are listening it for the first time, try to note it down. Triple frontier area is between Brazil, Argentina and Paraguay. Yes, not between these three. So this is incorrect. Golden Triangle, we know that it is in the eastern part of the country. That includes Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and also Vietnam also becomes a part of Golden Triangle. So this is again incorrect. Golden Crescent is Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran. All three are incorrect. We have none as correct. D is the right answer here. Yes. Then 𝐾𝐨𝐿 gas field, crucial for India's energy security. It has explicitly mentioned India's energy security. And we know that it does not appear that it is related to India or present in India. When we are talking about energy security, you should have thought about Tapi pipeline also. And this is the gas field from which we are planning to source the gas. That is the 𝐾𝐿 gas field in Turkmenistan to Afghanistan to Pakistan to India. Yes, that is TAPA, Tapi. In Afghanistan, we have Herat. In Afghanistan, we also have another one more cities there through which it is passing. Do have a look at it. It starts with K something, right? Pakistan, it has Quetta and Multan. In India, it is coming at Fazilka, right? So have a look at the maps also at time, and it is under Turkmenistan region. All right, so that was about polity and IRO. I hope you had a fine discussion, and go slow, but ensure that whatever you are reading, you are able to retain it for extended period. All the very best. Thank you.